Volume 2, Chapter 944. Haunted on planet Maratha, in the capital city of Pixel, the local resistance army's underground command center bustled with activity. This stronghold housed the provisional government and military commanders of the Gran and Dag peoples. Historically, these two races had fought their battles separately. However, through the diplomatic efforts of Obi-Wan Kenobi, they had begrudgingly set aside their prejudices to unite against a common enemy. Despite this alliance, the two factions maintained separate command over their forces. Obi-Wan Kenobi surveyed the complex and almost overwhelming holographic map of the battlefield, massaging his forehead as he spoke. Our clone army successfully took control of the business district yesterday. However, we're still facing issues with the separatists harassing our flanks. And where are they even coming from? The Grand Commander hesitated before responding. Beneath the city lies an extensive and intricate network of underground drainage pipes. Obi-Wan's expression darkened. Are you telling me these pipes aren't under our control? Both the Gran and Dag commanders exchanged uneasy glances, remaining silent. So, if we don't secure these underground passages, the separatist forces could emerge anywhere within the city? How are they sustaining themselves down there? Obi-Wan pressed. The Grand Commander replied meekly, it seems they've been scavenging supplies locally. After yesterday's battle, we lost control of a residential area. The separatists are likely using it to stockpile food and medicine. The Dag Commander interjected with disdain. How long will you Grans continue to disappoint? Fear not, I've dispatched 1,000 troops to reclaim the residential area. Victory will be ours soon. At that moment, the communicator buzzed. The Dag Commander, seeing the caller ID, smirked and answered, Captain Delisi, have you come to report the recapture of the residential area? Gunfire crackled through the communicator as Captain Delisi's voice came through, clear and determined. General, after a day of intense combat, our forces have secured the living room on the first floor of Building 3. The separatists are putting up a fierce resistance, holding the kitchen and bedroom, but rest assured, General, we will capture the kitchen by today. Obi-Wan, taken aback, inquired, and the bedroom? The enemy's firepower in the bedroom is formidable. It may take another day to secure, Captain Delisi replied confidently. The Dag Commander's face fell and he bellowed, Are all 1,000 of your troops squeezed into one living room? What about the other units? Captain Delisi hesitated, then admitted, We also attempted to attack other residential buildings, but we were repelled. Frustrated, the Dag Commander glared at Obi-Wan before yelling, You're relieved of your command, fool. He then violently smashed the communicator against the wall. Turning to Obi-Wan, he sheepishly added, I'll appoint a more competent commander. Cody, the clone commander present, could no longer contain his frustration. He pointed at the Dag Commander and exclaimed, You locals have no understanding of warfare. From the start of this conflict, your efforts have been nothing but a series of blunders. You must realize we're fighting to protect your homeland from those who would slaughter your people. The commanders of both the Gran and Dag peoples could only nod in agreement, overwhelmed by the criticism. Taking a deep breath, Cody turned to Obi-Wan and suggested, General, I recommend we deploy heavy weapons to obliterate the city's underground pipe network. We should still have some incendiary bombs left, Cody mentioned, prompting an immediate reaction from the two local officers. What? Are you planning to use heavy weapons in our city's underground pipe network? Absolutely not. Do you intend to blow up our entire city? Cody tried to reassure them. We will precisely control the amount and aim to minimize any impact on the surface buildings. Absolutely not. You're talking about endangering civilians. Their objections were firm and unwavering. Amidst the escalating tension, Obi-Wan Kenobi surveyed the room, then quietly exited. Outside, he took out his communicator and connected with the Jedi Order. A holographic projection of Master Windu materialized. Do you have anything to report, Master Obi-Wan? Windu inquired. Obi-Wan nodded, his expression grave. I'm currently on the planet Maratha, and something feels off. The Grans and the Dugs seem reluctant to resist the separatist invasion. I'm curious about the situation in the Galactic Council. Master Windu responded. The Grand Representative, Einla Tim, has been notably active in Parliament lately, rallying support for Maratha's resistance movement and requesting reinforcements. "And what's the stance of the Supreme Strategic Command?" Obi-Wan pressed. "With the Celestians' military operations against Agma failing again, we've proposed increasing troops on Malastare. An additional legion is expected to be dispatched," Windu explained. "Yet, something still doesn't sit right with me," Obi-Wan confessed. "Your concerns are valid, but I'm more worried about the prolonged conflict on Maratha affecting the battle in the Eliadu Galaxy. Severance Tan has led the Blade Fleet to attack there," Windu elaborated. "I need you to resolve the crisis on Malastare swiftly to ensure our supply lines remain open." "Understood. I will," Obi-Wan assured. "May the Force be with you," Windu said, offering a slight bow before ending the communication. Returning to the command center with a heavy heart, Obi-Wan addressed Cody. "Prepare for the attack on the city's underground network." The local commanders, eager for any sign of hope, inquired, "Are reinforcements coming?" "Yes, our situation is indeed dire, and we're counting on you," the Grand Commander said, embodying a mix of desperation and duty. Obi-Wan exchanged a meaningful glance with Cody, then sighed deeply. "No, there are no reinforcements coming. Our forces in the Eliadu system are stretched thin, and a significant number of clone troops are needed there." The Grand Commander's hope faded quickly. "Then, what about us? If the situation here turns unfavorable, we'll have to retreat soon. This operation might be our last military effort here," Obi-Wan revealed solemnly. The local commanders exchanged glances, a flicker of understanding passing between them. They realized the gravity of their situation and the difficult decisions that lay ahead. Vol 2, Chapter 945, Victory Achieved in a Single Battle. "The Republic is planning to withdraw its troops?" Xiao Guanghua asked, his brow furrowed as he surveyed the operational data spread out on the table before him. "How certain are we of this information?" A man of grand heritage, clad in nondescript attire, responded. "According to our Commander-in-Chief, it appears the Republic has caught wind of our strategies and is reluctant to further deplete its resources on our planet. So, they aim to resolve this conflict in a single decisive battle?" Xiao Guanghua mused, stroking his chin thoughtfully. "That seems highly likely," the Grand Man replied, his gaze lowered. "Moreover, following their victory on the planet Agma, the Republic's need to transport supplies from Malastare has significantly diminished." Xiao Guanghua nodded in understanding. "That does seem logical." The Grand Man made to leave, then paused, adding, "Our commander also mentioned that an offensive is planned for tomorrow morning, targeting the residential area and the No. 9 supermarket. The forces involved will be those loyal to the Republic, including clone troopers. Their determination in battle will be formidable." "Understood. We will prepare accordingly," Xiao Guanghua assured him. The Grand Man hesitated before speaking again. "There's something else. This conflict. Our planet has suffered greatly. I only hope. Rest assured, our agreement remains intact. The Confederation of Independent Systems will oversee the reconstruction of Marathar, compensating for any losses. More importantly, we will ease the grip of the corporate alliance on your planet through revised trade agreements, ensuring your economy's liberation from corporate dominance." Xiao Guanghua promised. The Grand Man nodded, relieved, and departed. After a moment of contemplation, Xiao Guanghua turned to Justin Reeves and inquired, "What's your assessment? If the Republic focuses its elite forces on our underground defenses, how confident are we in mounting a counterattack?" Justin Reeves, who had been leaning casually against the wall, looked up. "Without Republic reinforcements, we could encircle them and sever their retreat," he suggested, nodding towards two dark Jedi Knights standing quietly across the room. Given their deteriorating mental state, the governor suggested we utilize their remaining capabilities. Let them lead separate forces to flank the Republic's rear during the attack. The two dark Jedi Knights, former Jedi Masters Green Beatty and Aiden Ward, had been resurrected by Tang Xiao. Their consciousness had faded over time, leaving them increasingly zombie-like and taciturn. Xiao Guanghua nodded, considering the plan. "Let's proceed with this strategy for now. However, we must also prepare for other contingencies. As I'm concerned, the Republic might anticipate our moves." Justin Reeves added, "The patience of the Gran and Doug peoples is wearing thin. If we continue to stretch them thin, they might become a liability. Striking a decisive blow against the Republic will bolster their confidence. Xiao Guanghua agreed with a nod. 21 BBY, May 5th. The Astronomical Observatory reported that the star of the Eliadu galaxy, Eliadu itself, was expected to emit an X3 flare, the most intense recorded in the past decade. This event posed a significant challenge to the 18th Army of the Republic stationed in the vicinity, especially given the pressure from the separatist fleet. Governor Wilhoff Takin issued 9 military directives in rapid succession, mandating that all combat units remain vigilant and prepared for engagement. The 4-hour duration of the stellar flare demanded unwavering readiness for battle. True to expectations, the separatists seized the opportunity to strike. 2 hours before the stellar flare erupted, Severance Tan led the Blade Fleet in a coordinated assault with a contingent of A-Fleet warships on the Republic's defensive line, situated between the planet Eliadu and its satellite. This was not just an attack, it was a full-sky onslaught. The fleet comprised 110 Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers, 20 Cole-class battlecruisers, 10 Martha-class guided missile heavy cruisers, 20 Sova-class aircraft carriers, and 5 Kesov-class battlecruisers. Accompanying these behemoths were 3 Blue Sky-class command cruisers, 10 Xingzi-class maintenance drone carriers, 30 Ogre-class torpedo cruisers, 10 Apocalypse-class light cruisers, 50 Cobalt Alloy-class heavy frigates, and 100 Javelin-class guided missile frigates. Additionally, the fleet introduced a new class of warship, the Dunov-class battlecruiser, with 5 ships making their debut. The onset of the battle was abrupt, plunging directly into intense combat. The Fourth Civilization's fleet launched a relentless assault on the Republic's defenses. The Cole-class battlecruisers' supermatter railguns and the Ogre-class torpedo cruisers' Big Ivan-type superproton torpedoes bombarded Eliadu's satellite and its planetary shield without pause. Meanwhile, the Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers unleashed their heavy turbolasers on the Republic fleet. Severance Tan boldly commanded the launch of 3,000 fighter jets, a mix of 1,000 unmanned Vulture robot fighters and 2,000 manned aircraft, including 1,700 Ghost fighters and 300 Viking fighters. This massive deployment of aircraft marked a first in the luxury of warfare for the Fourth Civilization. The Republic, under the leadership of Wilhelm Tarkin, found themselves gasping for air under the weight of the assault. However, Tarkin managed to shelter the remaining 300-plus warships of the 18th Army's fleet under the protection of Eliadu and its satellites. The defense was bolstered by 2 Level 3 combat space stations, each 10,000 meters in length, according to the standards of the Galactic Republic. Though not as formidable as the Aganev-class interstellar bases, these stations served as competent platforms for firepower. The airfield on Eliadu's satellite was a hive of activity, launching numerous Z-95 Headhunters, V-19 Torrent fighters, and ARC-170 heavy fighters into the fray. The satellite, with its diameter exceeding 2,000 kilometers, was a fortress in space, equipped with factories, energy centers, airports, barracks, orbital defense systems, anti-aircraft artillery, spaceports, and docks. This comprehensive infrastructure was leagues beyond the limited capabilities of the 5 small satellites orbiting the planet Terrastella, which served merely as firepower platforms. The satellite's orbital defense system engaged the enemy with relentless firepower, with the planetary shield being temporarily lowered by precise computer control for each volley before being reactivated. Within the first 10 minutes of the battle, both sides had already sustained losses. Meanwhile, unnoticed by the Republic, an inconspicuous A-99 transport ship lingered behind the Fourth Civilization's fleet. To the Republic's radar operators, it appeared to be just another supply vessel. Unbeknownst to them, this transport ship was laden with 1,607.98 tons of supersubstances, a detail that could change the course of the battle. Vol 2, Chapter 946, Calculation. As Severance Tan launched a full-scale assault on the planet Eliadu, deploying all available fleets, her command ship, a Lukrahuk-class battleship named Chaos, became the epicenter of a different kind of battle. On the bridge, a team of mathematicians and astronomers from Jiwin University were engrossed in their work. Leading them was Bachar Barnak, a renowned mathematician wielding the Scepter Zero, a symbol of the pinnacle of G1 mathematical achievement. His team was not focused on the ongoing battle, but on the Eliadu star itself. The flagship's advanced scanning sensors, operating at maximum capacity, were not aimed at the battlefield, but at the star of the Eliadu galaxy. The G1 astronomers and mathematicians rapidly processed the incoming data, summarizing their findings for Bakr Barnak's final calculations. A massive countdown clock displayed in front of them read 38 minutes, 43 seconds, and 17 milliseconds. This was the calculated time until the Eliadu star's rotation would align its flare-active side with the planet's satellite, maximizing the flare's energy. At this critical moment, the A-99 transport ship, loaded with 1617.98 tons of supermatter, was to collide with the star. The initial phase of their calculation determined the precise amount of supermatter needed to amplify the stellar flare without causing catastrophic damage, while also triggering a significant hyperspace storm. However, it was clear that even with the spacecraft's shields at full capacity, direct contact with the star was impossible. The team was now calculating the optimal distance to detonate the supermatter to affect the stellar flare without destroying the spacecraft. To aid in their mission, the A-99 had been outfitted with additional shield generators and capacitors, all equipped with thermal shields to extend its survival in the star's intense radiation. The collaboration of these teams, each capable of making groundbreaking contributions to the galactic and astronomical fields on their own, brought Bakr Barnak ever closer to the desired outcome. He worked methodically at his computing terminal, pressing buttons rhythmically, his demeanor calm and focused. In his other hand, he held the Scepter Zero, a symbol of his unwavering belief in the power of mathematics. With it, he felt an unparalleled mastery over the numerical universe. Rear Admiral Ling Liang, the deputy commander of the operation, stood by, watching Bakr Barnak's calculations with intense focus. Meanwhile, Admiral Severance Tan, overseeing the battle, occasionally glanced their way, understanding the significance of their work. The defense of planet Eliadu was formidable. Protected by a planetary shield, its massive orbital defense system unleashed devastating firepower into space. The cannons operated in sync with the planetary shield, creating brief windows of vulnerability that the Fourth Civilization's ships needed to exploit to pose any threat to the orbital defenses. Destroying a planetary shield was a monumental task, requiring sustained bombardment over an extended period, a testament to the challenges faced by civilizations advancing through the cosmos. In the era of interstellar warfare, the fairness of conflict is surprisingly straightforward. It all boils down to the magnitude of energy. The equation is simple. Larger size equals greater strength and speed. This is because the larger an entity, the higher the energy level it can sustain. Assuming equal technological capabilities, the side with the superior energy level typically emerges victorious. This principle is starkly evident in the case of planetary shields facing off against planets. The advanced planetary shields, with their immense capacitive capacity and sophisticated circulating cooling systems, can withstand concentrated attacks with ease, dissipating heat on a scale comparable to an active volcano. Consequently, breaching the planetary shield of a well-defended planet with a battleship, even one as massive as a kilometer in length, is a daunting challenge. Despite the aggressive posture of the Fourth Civilization's fleet attacking these defenses, their efforts are largely futile. Their firepower, though formidable in appearance, barely scratches the defenses. They find themselves locked in combat with the Republic fleet, which can retreat under the planetary shield for protection against continuous assault. However, it's important to note that planetary shields are not without their vulnerabilities. The energy required to activate and maintain these shields is astronomical, turning the conflict into a battle of attrition, with each side vying to outlast the other in energy consumption. Severance Tan, closely monitoring the battle's progress, noted the significant losses her fleet had incurred in just half an hour of combat. 12 Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers and 2 Cole-class battle cruisers destroyed, over 700 fighter jets downed, and more than 40,000 casualties, including the wounded. Despite the grim statistics, She continued to issue commands aimed at maximizing damage to the Republic's defenses while minimizing her own fleet's losses. Clutching the metal hilt of her lightsaber, which she used as a pointer, Severance Tan made a grim resolution. Should the battle turn against them, she would not hesitate to execute Ling Liang and the Jiwen mathematicians responsible for their strategy. With only 13 minutes left on the countdown, Botcher Barnack, wielding a scepter, announced the completion of their calculations. Update the countdown. The moment it ends, the transport ship will initiate a forced hyperspace jump, escaping near the mass projection of Eliadu's star. Deploy shield power to 91.29%, maximize engine output, and ensure an acceleration of 803.11 g. Trigger the supermatter response on the 21st second, he ordered, his voice filled with urgency. On the screen before him, the countdown updated to 11 minutes, 12 seconds, and 09. Aboard the A-99 transport ship, navigation robots and B-1 combat robots bustled about, supported by 10 human crew members. These humans, stationed at critical control points, were tasked with ensuring the ship's resilience in emergencies. Their determination was palpable, each one proudly bearing the banner of the Fourth Civilization, ready to do whatever it took to secure victory. Vol 2, Chapter 947, Suicide Mission. Before the operation commenced, Botcher Barnack led his team to the flagship of the Fourth Civilization fleet, the Rookie Hook-class battleship named Chaos. So you're saying my fleet has to assault the defenses of planet Eliadu, ensure the transport ship breaches the star system, and then facilitate the deployment of at least 100,000 troops to the Eliadu moon within the next 2 hours. Severance Tan's expression was grave. Exactly. That's the strategy for this battle, replied Army Major General Ling Liang with a solemn tone. Do you realize that executing this plan could result in massive casualties for the Navy? The Eliadu system's naval force totals 470,000. Your plan could send more than half of them to their graves. Are you seeking personal vengeance? Severance Tan leaned closer to Ling Liang, her eyes blazing with an intimidating ferocity. Ling Liang's expression remained unchanged as she responded, My concern isn't about the disparity in arms, but about achieving victory. With the situation as it stands, do you propose a better alternative? With each passing minute, the Republic's fleet here only grows stronger. Do you suggest we engage in a war of attrition against the Galactic Republic? Severance Tan clenched her teeth. If we fail, you'll be the first I kill. There's no need. I'll be at the forefront of the battle. If we fail, I'll likely be dead, Ling Liang declared with pride. Humph! Severance Tan snorted disdainfully. So the crux of this mission is a transport ship, and it requires a human crew to pilot it on a suicide mission? Yes, Ling Liang's gaze dimmed, and due to time constraints and the need for secrecy, these individuals won't be part of any rebirth plan. After pondering for a moment, Severance Tan slammed her hand on the table and quickly tapped a few commands into her communicator. Shortly after, more than 50 crew members entered the bridge, standing in neat rows. These individuals have been with us since the Battle of Besping. They are among the finest in our Navy, Severance Tan informed Ling Liang before addressing the crew. We are about to launch a full-scale offensive. Your mission is to pilot a transport ship on a suicide attack. Do you understand? The crew members exchanged uneasy glances, their hesitation palpable. Ling Liang stepped forward, raising her voice. This is indeed a mission where survival is unlikely. This battle, this entire war is fraught with peril. If there were a safer path to victory, we would take it. But our reality is harsh. Our enemy is the Galactic Republic, an entity that refuses to let us live with dignity. Why are we at war? Because we yearn to live with dignity, not as subjugated beings under the Republic's capitalists, treated as mere commodities. This war is marked by a stark power imbalance. Survival is uncertain for us all. We fight not just for ourselves, but for future generations. She clenched her fists, her voice filled with resolve. We may be the generation that sacrifices, but our sacrifice can pave the way for future generations to stand tall in this galaxy. That's why we choose to face death. I won't force anyone to accept this mission. You're free to step back, but the battle will proceed as planned. However, I hope you understand why you're here. The crew members looked at each other, a sense of resolve slowly taking hold. Then, one of them asked, "General, can we really make a difference?" Linglong responded with a calm demeanor. "Your mission involves piloting a transport ship loaded with a vast quantity of supermatter with the objective of colliding it into the star of Eliadu. The operation's precision in terms of collision and detonation will be managed by computers and robots. Your role is to ensure that you can respond flexibly and make the most appropriate decisions should any emergencies arise." A crew member, with a smile, remarked, "I suppose those robots wouldn't be able to handle a fighter jet or lethal cosmic radiation, right? Count me in." He raised his hand in agreement. "I'm in," echoed another. One by one, the crew members volunteered, their initial hesitation replaced by a resolute determination. Ultimately, 10 crew members were chosen to board the A-99 transport ship for the critical mission. Fast forward to the present, the battle has escalated. The Fourth Civilization's fleet launched a fearless assault on the defenses of planet Eliadu. The cosmos was alight with missiles, lasers, and energy beams, culminating in a spectacular explosion upon impact. Aboard the A-99 transport ship, the 10 crew members were stationed at their designated areas. Their responsibility was not direct control, but to ensure they could make accurate judgments in case of unforeseen events. The battle plan, meticulously timed to the second, could not rely solely on human intervention. The ship's systems and navigation robots were programmed to execute commands from the flagship, including initiating hyperdrive and detonating the supermatter in the cargo hold. If all went according to plan, these 10 individuals would witness an extraordinary cosmic display before becoming part of the cosmic dust themselves. The countdown commenced. 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds, 10, 9, 8. As the countdown hit 0, the navigation robot activated the hyperspace engine. The hyperdrive had been modified to disable the stabilizer, preventing an automatic exit from hyperspace in case of anomalies. For a brief moment, the view outside was a blur of elongated light bands, a fleeting hyperspace phenomenon. When normal space returned, the crew was met with an overwhelming sight, a colossal fireball that filled their entire view. It was so vast that it seemed less like a sphere and more like an endless inferno. Thanks to the ship's anti-radiation coating, the crew's vision was spared from the intense glare of Eliadu, a star over 2 million kilometers in diameter. In an instant, the A-99 had traversed billions of kilometers from the orbit of Terastra, the 5th planet of the galaxy, to the galaxy's central star. Upon exiting hyperspace, the transport ship activated its shield system. However, the brief exposure to the star's potent radiation caused significant damage, triggering alarms throughout the ship. Guided by the navigation robot, the transport ship approached the star at a precisely calculated speed, ready to complete its mission. Vol 2, Chapter 948, Violent Reaction. The transport ship was rapidly approaching the Eliadu star, its shield system disintegrating under the intense energy radiation from the star. Alarms blared throughout the ship, signaling the imminent danger. Fortunately, the Republic fleet had not detected their presence. Although the Eliadu galaxy had several outposts near the stars for monitoring potential threats and harnessing stellar energy, the A-99 transport ship managed to bypass these outposts through a hyperspace jump, a feat made possible by the precise calculations of Shay's mathematicians. Normally, a jump to this location would be impossible due to the area being within the stellar mass projection, where the powerful forces of space-time conversion could tear a ship apart. To avoid this, ships typically used hyperspace stabilizers to force an early exit from hyperspace. However, the transport ship had its stabilizers removed, and the mathematicians had calculated the exact moment for a safe exit from hyperspace, deep within the star's radiation range and beyond the Republic's stellar detection outposts. A miscalculation by even a second could result in the ship being destroyed by the mass projection in hyperspace. In the event of an accident during a hyperspace jump, it was unlikely to affect the real three-dimensional space, with the spacecraft and crew simply dissipating in the high-dimensional hyperspace. This made Tang Xiao realize the absurdity of a scene in Star Wars 8, where a rebel battlecruiser jumps into hyperspace to crash into the Supreme. It was an event with such a low probability that it bordered on nonsense. The stakes were high for this mission. A wrong calculation meant the transport ship would vanish into hyperspace, rendering the sacrifice of hundreds of thousands of naval soldiers from the Fourth Civilization meaningless. However, the Jiwan people, known for their deep understanding of the stars and their ability to thrive in a three-body galaxy, had made an accurate calculation. The transport ship plunged into the depths of the star's radiation range undetected, thanks to the lethal electromagnetic and radiation interference that affected all scans and sensors. The mission proceeded smoothly until the spacecraft's engine encountered a problem 1 minute into their journey. The crew made a decisive move, redirecting a portion of the shield's energy to the engine, forcing it to overload and increase the spacecraft's speed. This ensured that even if the ship was destroyed prematurely due to the reduced shield energy, its momentum would carry it to the designated position. With the timer reset, the 10 crew members realized there was nothing more they could do. Clutching the banner of the Fourth Civilization, they joined hands and faced the inferno before them, leaving their final mark on the world with a sense of unity and purpose. "The beauty of this star is unparalleled," she whispered. But in the next instant, the shield shattered and flames engulfed everything. The star's radiation swiftly annihilated the transport ship, yet within its heavily fortified cabin, 16217.98 tons of supermatter endured until the very end. Propelled by inertia, the cabin, now little more than a hulk of scrap, advanced over 2,000 kilometers. As the countdown hit 0, a high-energy laser beam targeted the supermatter's reaction core, triggering a catastrophic explosion. However, for a star spanning more than 2 million kilometers in diameter, this explosion was as inconsequential as a mouse's fart beneath a giant's foot. Meanwhile, in the high orbit of Terra Stella, the fifth planet in the Eliadu system, aboard the command-type Lucre Hook-class battleship Chaos, Botcher Barnack, scepter in hand, scrutinized the constant stream of stellar data relayed by the sensors. From the moment the transport ship had warped into hyperspace, all contact had been lost. The only indication of their plan's success would be the star's reaction. They monitored the infrared image of the star, noting a spot that appeared white in the infrared scan, an X3 level flare, marking the spacecraft's intended destination. As the countdown reset to 0 and then started counting into negative numbers, minutes passed without any response from the star. Severance Tan, having temporarily relinquished fleet command to Admiral Matt Horner, awaited the outcome. Admiral Horner, known for his even temper and respect for Tan's command abilities, accepted his temporary role without complaint, a testament to his character in the face of Tan's notoriously difficult demeanor. "Hasn't the supermatter detonated?" Severance Tan inquired, her tone grave as she stared at the star's image on the screen. "The energy released by the supermatter explosions is negligible compared to the magnitude of this star, especially given the scale of the flare," Botcher Barnack responded calmly. "Then is my fleet doomed to perish under the planet's defenses?" Severance Tan retorted sharply. "Wait," Botcher Barnack replied, his voice steady. Severance Tan's gaze sharpened, her expression darkening as she gripped the hilt of her lightsaber tighter. Suddenly, a monitor announced, "Multiple star spots detected around the stellar flare." "How many?" Botcher Barnack asked urgently. 17. The largest spans over 80,000 kilometers in diameter, and the number is still increasing, the monitor reported. Star spots? An increase in their number could indicate a drop in temperature in that region. Severance Tan mused, her brow furrowed. Or it could signify something else, Ling Liang interjected with a hint of a smile. The concentration of the star's energy, as the emergence of sunspots, often indicates a focused reaction of the star's electromagnetic fields. The monitor continued. The count of sunspots has reached 79. These sunspots now cover 7% of the star's surface. "It's done," Ling Liang exclaimed. Botcher Barnack slammed his scepter to the ground, his anxiety peaking. "No, we can't stop now. Otherwise, this flare will." In the next moment, a flash of light, visible even from their distant vantage point, erupted from the direction of Eliadu's star. Volume 2, Chapter 949, Flare Eruption Correction. The previous data on the stellar flare level was inaccurate. The level of a stellar flare that can impact the satellite planetary shield should be X20, while the initial flare level is X10. At this moment, the star of Eliadu erupted in an extremely dazzling display of light. This light originated from a stellar flare that had initially reached the X10 level. However, now, the star exploded with a terrifyingly intense energy. The stellar sunspots surrounding the flare were in constant motion, generating a fearsome stellar storm. This storm ejected a massive amount of stellar material in the direction of the flare. The star's corona appeared to be in turmoil, with prominences hundreds of thousands of kilometers long spiraling towards planet Eliadu, one after another. The X10 level flare from Eliadu's star was already the most violent reaction observed in recent years. However, this time, the reaction was intensified by the addition of more than 1,000 tons of supermatter, causing the star's activity to escalate dramatically. The flare's intensity level continued to rise. X11, X12, X15. As the flare grew stronger, the supergiant prominences caused by the coronal mass ejection also produced several waves of extremely powerful charged particle streams, leading to the formation of a magnetic storm. The stellar flares continued to grow, and the resulting electromagnetic storms became increasingly severe. X18, X19, X20. Ultimately, the highest level of this stellar flare was recorded at X20.3 by the countless stellar monitoring instruments used by both the Fourth Civilization and the Galactic Republic. Simultaneously, alarms blared continuously, whether it was on the Chaos, the flagship of the Fourth Civilization, or in the command center of the 18th Army of the Republic on planet Eliadu. Success! The stream of charged particles produced by this stellar flare will reach planet Eliadu in 3 days. The electromagnetic storm has already formed and is expected to impact the battlefield in 28 minutes, exclaimed a given monitor. Success! We succeeded! Everyone present erupted in loud cheers. Botcher Barnack slammed his scepter to the ground, his body trembling. Taking a deep breath, he said with a slight tremble, "This is the miracle of mathematics." Ling Liang's expression was also filled with excitement, though she managed to conceal her emotions well, simply stating, "I will head to the landing ship and stand by. I will personally direct this satellite landing battle." After speaking, she turned to leave. She appeared calm, but in her haste, she knocked over a coffee cup, spilling coffee on her trousers without noticing, and left the bridge in a somewhat awkward manner. Severance Tan returned to the fleet headquarters, giving a rare nod to Admiral Matt Horner, and instructed, "Notify the ships to prepare for the electromagnetic storm. Recover all fighter jets, lower the shields in time, and protect the electronic equipment." Matt Horner added, "During the flare's duration, communications will be greatly affected. We need to move the command center forward." Severance Tan nodded in agreement. The harsh siren echoed through the command headquarters inside the fortress-like giant administrative center on planet Eliadu. An officer rushed to the 18th Army Governor Wilhoff Takin, stood at attention, saluted, and reported, "Your Excellency, the observatory has sent an urgent message. The flare from Eliadu's star has suddenly increased in intensity. In less than 20 minutes, the level escalated from X10.4 to X20.3. Bastard! Governor Tarkin slammed his hand on the table. Are those people in the observatory incompetent? How could they misjudge such a significant stellar reaction? The observatory claims there were no issues with their previous observations and calculations. The officer discreetly mopped his brow, a gesture of unease. Suddenly, a half-bald elderly man burst into the room, his pace quick and his forehead beaded with sweat. As the head of the Eliadu Planetary Observatory, and his arrival was marked by urgency. The calculations were accurate. The recent phenomena were completely unexpected and didn't align with our predictions at all, he exclaimed, breathless from his rush. Wilhelm Tarkin, upon hearing this, spun around to face the old man, his gaze piercing. "Could this be the work of separatists?" he demanded, his voice laced with suspicion. "It's uncertain. Our latest observations and calculations indicate that the source of this violent reaction is alarmingly close to the star. At such proximity, it's nearly impossible for any spacecraft or missiles to survive, let alone operate. Moreover, our star monitoring stations haven't detected any foreign objects entering the area," the observatory head explained, his tone laced with a mix of confusion and concern. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, Tarkin retorted, his expression darkening. I've already prepared the fleet for electromagnetic storms, recalled the fighter jets, lowered the shields, and secured the electronic equipment. However, I must understand the potential impact of this unprecedented stellar flare. The observatory head shook his head, a gesture of gravity. It's not just the fleet that's at risk. Our calculations suggest that we need to deactivate the planetary shield of the Eliadu satellite. If we don't, the electromagnetic storm will cause the shield's capacitor compartment to overload and melt instantly. Repair would be impossible. We'd have to replace it entirely. The planetary shield on Eliadu itself, being more powerful, should withstand the storm if operated at full capacity. Wilhelm Tarkin, now visibly agitated, raised his voice. With the separatist fleet looming over us, do you seriously suggest we disable the satellite's planetary shield? The old man sighed, the weight of the situation evident in his demeanor. Whether we deactivate it or not, the outcome remains the same. The electromagnetic storm will destroy the satellite's shield capacitors. Failure to deactivate will only delay the inevitable. However, this will necessitate the replacement of the planetary shields of the moons. He paused, giving Tarkin a cautious look before continuing. We were fortunate this time. The energy from this stellar flare nearly breached the threshold. Our calculations show that if the flare's intensity exceeds an X-22 level, it could trigger a chain reaction, potentially escalating the flare to a catastrophic X-30 level or beyond. In such a scenario, the Eliadu satellite would essentially become a giant microwave oven, and the planet Eliadu wouldn't fare much better. Tarkin's frustration boiled over, and he slammed his fist onto the table. Is there anything else? In 3 days, the stream of charged particles from the star's corona will reach Eliadu. The side of the planet facing the star will be bombarded with EMPs, the observatory head warned. At that point, the planetary shield must be fully operational to prevent severe damage to all electronic equipment on the planet. This has to be the work of the separatists, Tarkin roared, his conviction unwavering. Your Excellency, Governor, what are our orders? The officer inquired, his voice tinged with apprehension. With a grimace, Tarkin made his decision. There's only one course of action. Shut down the planetary shields of the satellites. Have all fleets focus on protecting the satellites. Vol 2, Chapter 950, Engage. On the evening of May 5th, 21 BY, the tranquility of space was shattered by an unprecedented event. The star of Eliadu erupted in a violent flare, reaching an intensity of X-23. This celestial phenomenon triggered a magnetic field storm that swept across the battlefield, altering the course of the conflict. Deflector shields, unlike other electronic devices, bear the brunt of magnetic storms. When overwhelmed, the shield's capacitors could melt instantly. Consequently, warships across the battlefield were forced to lower their deflector shields, including those protecting the Eliadu satellite. To prevent further damage, all warships also powered down sensitive electronics, such as radar, sensors, communicators, intelligence systems, and even robots. Fighter jets and small spacecraft were either docked in hangar platforms or tethered to larger warships, with all systems shut down. Despite these precautions, the sudden magnetic storm did not halt the ongoing conflict. The fleets, entangled in battle, found themselves in a precarious situation. With electronic targeting systems offline, firing blindly into space made hitting the enemy nearly impossible. Yet the last orders issued before communications were cut dictated the next moves for both sides. The Republic fleet was ordered to protect the Eliadu satellite at all costs, prompting all warships to converge on it. Meanwhile, the Fourth Civilization's fleet, led by Severance Tan, executed a meticulously planned strategy. Having anticipated the stellar flare and magnetic storm, they maneuvered their warships into optimal positions to approach the satellite swiftly and commenced a calculated assault. The Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers, devoid of their deflector shields, transformed into formidable gunboats. They formed an aggressive charge formation, aiming to intercept the Republic fleet and exploit the temporary vulnerability of the Chaser-class battlecruisers, which relied heavily on their now disabled shields. Severance Tan's strategy was multifaceted. By launching an artillery assault and charging towards the Eliadu satellite, She aimed to create a tactical advantage, severely damaging the Republic's Chaser-class battlecruisers in the process. Simultaneously, the Fourth Civilization's ground forces were mobilized. A fleet of raid landing ships launched from the Kessoff-class battlecruisers, initiating an orbital drop towards the satellite. This was complemented by a swarm of APOD-33 transport planes and C-9979 transport ships, all converging on Iliadu with a singular goal: to secure the satellite and gain a strategic foothold in the battle. As the magnetic storm raged on, casting a shadow over the battlefield, the clash between the Republic fleet and the Fourth Civilization's forces intensified. The outcome of this confrontation would not only decide the fate of the Iliadu satellite, but could also shift the balance of power in the ongoing war. The Rukri Hook-class battleship soared, making a beeline for the densely packed atmosphere of the Iliadu satellite. The sky was immediately ablaze with an astonishing barrage of anti-aircraft fire. Explosions, bullets, and lasers filled the air, leaving no space untouched. However, without fire control radar and auxiliary AI, the effectiveness of these defenses plummeted to levels reminiscent of World War II, if not worse. The soldiers manning these guns lacked training in manual aiming, rendering their efforts almost futile as they blindly combated the aerial threat. The Fourth Civilization Army commenced its descent onto the Iliadu satellite in waves, with the assault landing ships leading the charge, plummeting to the surface like meteorites. Upon impact, the hatches burst open, unleashing thousands of formidable figures, the Injori. This wasn't a biological weapon engineered from the T-virus, but actual, living Injori warriors. Known as the galaxy's most physically adept fighting race, the Injori had returned to the galactic battlefield after a decade of absence. Clad in heavy combat armor, these warriors wielded the Striker assault rifle, a bulky weapon produced by the Citadel Standard Light Industry, a subsidiary of the Fourth Civilization. The technology, inspired by Mass Effect, resulted in a weapon that was more grenade launcher than assault rifle, highly favored by the Krogans within the same universe. Given the physical similarities between the Krogans and the Injori, the Striker assault rifle was particularly well suited for the latter. However, due to the Injori's even larger stature, an enlarged version of the rifle was necessary. With their extraordinary physical capabilities, the Injori soldiers shrugged off the immense forces of orbital deployment, launching into attack the moment the hatches opened. Their approach to battle was uncoordinated. At best, small groups of acquaintances would band together, charging forward while bellowing war cries. Yet, this straightforward assault was lethally effective. The Injori's sheer size was intimidating, and to maximize their combat potential, the Fourth Civilization had equipped each warrior with a personal shield based on Mass Effect technology, in addition to their heavy combat armor. Despite its weight, the armor offered remarkable defensive capabilities, transforming each Injori soldier into a formidable humanoid tank. Shortly after the Injori initiated their assault, the second wave of Fourth Civilization transport ships arrived. Tens of thousands of soldiers disembarked, swiftly establishing landing zones and forward bases in a highly organized manner. They then launched targeted attacks on strategic objectives, demonstrating a level of purpose and coordination that contrasted sharply with the chaotic charge of the Injori. Vol 2, Chapter 951, Lamb to the Slaughter. After securing more than 10 landing sites within the territory of the Fourth Civilization Army, the soldiers began to systematically eliminate the surrounding Republic air defense positions. Meanwhile, the Injoli soldiers, who were among the first to attack, demonstrated a fearsome capability. They activated their unique technology as they neared their targets. Equipped with mechanical wings resembling those of insects, they fluttered rapidly into the air. This was the Injoli's flapping backpack, a piece of technology that, despite its unconventional nature, leveraged the Injoli's exceptional physical prowess to grant them aerial mobility. Given the Injoli's spaceships and fighter jets were technologically inferior, this innovation allowed them to take to the skies in a unique fashion. Remarkably, even during stellar flares that triggered magnetic storms, the Injoli's flapping backpacks remained operational. With these backpacks, the Injoli soldiers could ascend dozens or even hundreds of meters, launching attacks from above with a tactical advantage. The Republic's anti-aircraft fire struggled to target them effectively, and on the rare occasions they were hit, the Injoli's thick armor and heat-resistant skin minimized the damage. Even a fall from the sky was a minor inconvenience. They would simply rise and roar back into the fray. 3 Injoli soldiers, embodying this relentless spirit, charged forward. Ignoring the enemy's firepower, they decimated Republic defenders in their path, undeterred by the occasional missed target. Their focus was singular: advance and destroy. Upon reaching a building, they spotted quadruple-mounted anti-aircraft blaster cannons on the roof, unleashing a barrage of fire. After a brief exchange of glances, one Injoli bellowed, "To the top! For glory!" His comrades responded with fierce roars, activating their flapping backpacks. The mechanical wings buzzed rapidly, propelling them towards the roof with the aid of anti-gravity patches. However, a group of Republic defenders, previously overlooked, emerged from hiding and opened fire. A volley of explosive energy hit the leading Injoli, leaving scorched marks on his body. Enraged, he turned back, abandoning his ascent to confront these survivors. His towering figure, over 2.4 meters tall, exuded a menacing aura. The defenders, realizing their weapons were ineffective, fled in terror. Unperturbed, the Injoli soldier crashed through a wall, confronting the panic-stricken defenders who had lost the will to fight. With a savage grin, he mocked, "Fragile little Republic beings." He then unleashed a barrage from his striker assault rifle at point-blank range. The explosive rounds obliterated the defenders, leaving nothing but carnage in their wake. Amidst the destruction, he spotted a lone survivor attempting to escape. With a malicious smile, he activated his flapping backpack and pursued at high speed, crashing into the man with such force that he was reduced to a gruesome pulp against a wall. Meanwhile, the other 2 Injoli soldiers reached the rooftop, where more than 20 Republic defenders manned the anti-aircraft gun. Without hesitation, they opened fire mid-air, their striker assault rifles unleashing a hail of grenade-like bullets. The explosions that followed engulfed the anti-aircraft position, forcing the remaining defenders to seek cover behind whatever protection they could find. The defenders of the Republic were caught off guard by the ferocity of the Injorus, who, despite being under heavy fire, managed to land and unleash havoc. One Injori, in a display of brute strength, gruesomely tore a Republic soldier in half, instilling terror in the hearts of the others. Panic ensued. Some soldiers fled, while others sought refuge in corners, firing only sporadically. Amidst the chaos, a Wookiee mercenary, known for their formidable prowess in battle, engaged one of the Injorus. The clash between these 2 mighty warriors was akin to a battle between beasts, their surroundings bearing the brunt of their ferocity. However, the other Injori proved unstoppable, crushing defenses and mercilessly eliminating the Republic soldiers in hiding. Just as this Injori was about to continue his rampage, a rocket launched from the stairwell struck him squarely, causing a massive explosion that left a gaping hole in his torso. Remarkably, his body remained intact, a testament to the Injori's extraordinary resilience. The smoke cleared to reveal a terrified Republic soldier with the rocket launcher, his fear palpable. The surviving Injori, enraged, quickly dispatched the Wookiee with a powerful blow and hurled him down the stairs. He then turned his wrath on the soldier with the rocket launcher, ending his life with a brutal punch. After eliminating all resistance, the Injori callously kicked aside the body of his fallen comrade, embodying the Injoli creed that the fallen were weak and unworthy of sympathy. He then commandeered a quadruple anti-aircraft blaster cannon, gleefully turning it against the Republic's own defenses. Meanwhile, the Fourth Civilization's army made a smooth landing on the satellite Eliadu, capitalizing on a large-scale stellar flare outbreak to deploy 150,000 troops swiftly. Among these forces were 10,000 Injoli soldiers and 30,000 Kali troops. The Kali, though not as physically imposing as the Injoris, boasted a formidable combat prowess honed through centuries of warfare against the Yamre. Their mastery of cold weapons and guerrilla tactics had once pushed back the technologically advanced Yamre civilization. Tang Xiao, having brokered peace between the Kali and the Yamre, and secured financial aid for the Kali from the Interstellar Banking Association, had risen to a near mythical status among the Kali people. To them, he was a demigod, the only one they revered in the absence of their legendary hero, Grievous. At Tang Xiao's call, seasoned Kali veterans donned their ancestral animal bone masks, armed themselves with sharp scimitars, and carried sniper rifles, ready for battle. If the Immerse were an unstoppable force, the Kali were the silent reapers, adept at striking from the shadows and eliminating Republic soldiers with ruthless efficiency. In the midst of the battlefield, the most lethal aspect was not merely the physical confrontations, but the fact that, during the 2-hour duration of the stellar flare, all forms of communication between the two factions were utterly severed. This catastrophic event left the defenders of the Eliadu satellite in a dire predicament. As the Fourth Civilization Army commenced its landing, these guardians found themselves isolated, their technological lifelines disrupted. The soldiers of the Republic, once formidable and coordinated, were reduced to nothing more than lambs awaiting slaughter. The sudden silence that enveloped them was more than just a lack of noise. It was a void of connection, leaving each unit and soldier stranded on an island of uncertainty. The usual hum of signals, the constant exchange of orders and statuses, had vanished, replaced by a deafening silence that spoke volumes of their vulnerability. As the Fourth Civilization Army advanced, their movements were methodical and unchallenged, exploiting the communication blackout to its fullest. The defenders, caught off guard and fragmented, scrambled to mount any form of resistance. But without the ability to coordinate or call for reinforcements, their efforts were sporadic and ineffective. The battlefield, once a scene of strategic combat, had transformed into a chaotic struggle for survival. The soldiers of the Republic, trained for scenarios where unity and communication were their greatest assets, found themselves ill-prepared for this new reality. Their attempts to re-establish connections were futile, their signals lost in the cosmic interference caused by the stellar flare. In this unexpected turn of events, the Fourth Civilization Army's advantage was clear. Their ability to operate independently of one another, coupled with their superior knowledge of the satellite's terrain, allowed them to encircle and overpower the disoriented defenders with ease. The aftermath was a sobering reminder of the importance of communication in warfare. The Republic's forces, once proud and indomitable, lay scattered and defeated, a testament to the devastating impact of being cut off from one another. The victory of the Fourth Civilization Army was not just a triumph of strength, but of strategy, showcasing the catastrophic consequences when the lines of communication are severed on the battlefield. Vol 2, Chapter 952, Successful Landing. The success of the landing operation exceeded all expectations. With communications severed, the Galactic Republic's forces were in disarray, their warships scattered and engaging in sporadic, uncoordinated skirmishes. As previously mentioned, the Republic's Chaser-class battlecruisers stood no chance against the Fourth Civilization's Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers, especially without their shields. The Republic's fighters hadn't even been deployed, making their battleships particularly vulnerable to the heavy cruisers' onslaught. Thus, when the Fourth Civilization's fleet, led by Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers, secured orbit around Eliadu's moon first, many Republic warships retreated. The lack of a unified command led to a domino effect. As the first few warships withdrew, others followed suit, leaving them no choice but to watch from a distance as the Fourth Civilization's forces landed on the moon. The situation on the ground mirrored that in space. With no opposition from above, the Fourth Civilization's army landed smoothly, quickly establishing over 10 secure landing zones. They set up anti-aircraft guns, missiles, temporary energy shields, mobile radar stations, field hospitals, and maintenance centers, among other facilities. The Injoli troops, known for their formidable combat prowess, were among the first to engage. They easily breached the Republic's defense lines, which lacked support and crossfire. Despite the Republic's efforts to train over 1 billion soldiers, these troops, including those from the 18th Army, couldn't match the Injolis, let alone the Kali army that followed, capitalizing on the chaos. As the Republic's defenders struggled, the Fourth Civilization's forces completed their initial deployment. A fleet of bipedal mechs, known as ATPT walkers, disembarked from the transport planes. These walkers, with their box-shaped bodies and elongated, reverse-jointed legs, were ready for battle. The fourth civilization had acquired a total of 5,340 ATPT walkers after capturing the Blade Fleet, and for this operation, they deployed 2,000 of them. The decision to use ATPT walkers extensively, rather than the usual combination of siege tanks, Mastodon infantry fighting vehicles, Vulture fighting vehicles, and M9 Wolverine anti-aircraft vehicles, was largely logistical. Anticipating a prolonged engagement with limited resupply opportunities, they opted for ATPT walkers, which could utilize ammunition and supplies captured from the Republic. During the 2 hours of stellar flare activity, the Republic's 18th Army faced a nightmare scenario. Cut off from communication, they were forced to fight blindly, with no overarching strategy or coordination. Without planetary shields, fire control radar, or any form of support, they were at a severe disadvantage. In those 2 hours, the fourth civilization managed to land approximately 130,000 soldiers on Eliadu's moon, not only achieving but surpassing their initial objectives. This overwhelming force quickly gained a foothold, setting the stage for a comprehensive campaign that would challenge the Republic's control over the region. To facilitate a prolonged engagement, additional supplies were transported, ensuring the unit's sustainability. 2 hours later, the magnetic storm induced by the stellar flare diminished to a level that no longer threatened the planetary shield. The satellite Eliadu promptly activated the planetary shield, effectively isolating the fourth civilization's army and fleet. However, the flare's aftermath persisted. Despite the shield's activation, communication remained sporadic, and radar interference was significant. Severance Tan, undeterred by the deployment of the planetary shield, aggressively pursued the Republic fleet, neglecting to cover the landing of her ships. The fleets of both sides engaged in a fierce battle in the high orbit of Eliadu's satellite. Once communication was re-established, Governor Wilhoff Tarkin of the Republic's 18th Army issued numerous orders to stabilize his forces, commanding his fleet to retreat and form a defensive formation to prevent being outmaneuvered by the fourth civilization's fleet. Both fleet commanders exhibited exceptional strategic skills despite the significant communication disruptions. This confrontation showcased the pinnacle of Galactic Fleet Command. However, the tide quickly turned. Severance Tan's adept command of her warships overwhelmed Wilhoff Tarkin, forcing him to withdraw completely from Eliadu's high orbit. Tarkin regrouped his fleet near Eliadu, awaiting the further dissipation of the stellar flare's energy. During the hours-long battle, Severance Tan decisively breached the Republic's defenses, inflicting heavy losses on their battleships. At 34 a.m. on May 6th, with the stellar flare's energy reduced to a safer level, Governor Tarkin ordered an immediate counterattack. From Eliadu's planet and satellite airfields, as well as the hangars of the Chaser-class battlecruisers, over 5,000 fighter jets were launched. Severance Tan, having achieved her combat objectives, recognized the futility of further engagement. She withdrew her fleet to a position 0.5 light minutes from the Republic fleet, maintaining a standoff. At this distance, the Republic's fighter jets faced a lengthy journey to engage, diminishing their combat effectiveness due to their separation from the Mothership. Meanwhile, her fleet continued to bombard Eliadu's planetary shields. Concurrently, Ling Liang entered the Fourth Civilization Army's temporary command center on the satellite Eliadu, situated in a colonial city's radio and television center, which she designated as her headquarters. The Army's landing zone was located over 500 kilometers from Eliadu's planetary shield generator. With communication restored, the Republic's defenders began to leverage their strategic advantages in the ongoing battle. Vol. 2, Chapter 953, Hyperspace Storm. The Eliadu satellite, orbiting one of the most technologically advanced planets in the Outer Ring star region, boasts a high level of development itself. Spanning over 2,700 kilometers in diameter, it is home to numerous airports, spaceports, factories, mines, and colonial cities. With a population of approximately 100 million, the majority of its inhabitants are involved in military and logistics operations. This strategic importance stems from the satellite's low-gravity environment, which significantly facilitates the takeoff and landing of fighter jets, making it an essential base for the Republic's defense line against Wilhoff-Takin. Stationed on the satellite are 2 million Republic troops, composed entirely of recruited soldiers rather than the more costly clone soldiers. After overcoming initial communication disruptions, the Republic's command center was able to resume its coordination and command of operations. However, they were soon met with dire news. The Separatist army had not only established a stable forward position, but had also captured one of the colonial towns, with the formidable Injoli forces advancing over 100 kilometers. In response, Tarkin urgently directed the satellite's guards to mobilize their forces to protect the planetary shield generator at all costs. The Eliadu planet and its satellite were protected by an internal planetary shield system, which, despite leaving a vulnerable spot above the shield generator, was deemed secure enough given the protection offered by the two planets and a large fleet. The current crisis, however, stemmed from the threat of the planetary shield being compromised from within. On the afternoon of May 6th, the situation worsened as the Separatist landing force launched a massive interspersed operation using numerous AT-PT walkers. This assault led to the complete defeat of 3 Republican armies, resulting in over 10,000 casualties. Meanwhile, Governor Wilhelm Tarkin of planet Eliadu received even more alarming news. "What do you mean the H-4449 convoy can't arrive?" he bellowed, grabbing the collar of a staff officer who reported that not only the H-4449 transport fleet, but also 9 other fleets had encountered a hyperspace storm during their journey, forcing them to exit hyperspace prematurely. Now stranded 50 to 80 light-years away, these fleets could only proceed using sublight engines and required assistance. Why does this happen? Could a stellar flare affect the hyperspace channel? Tarkin demanded, his frustration palpable. The staff officer explained that according to the observatory's experts, such an event occurring naturally was highly unlikely. The only plausible explanation was that the Separatists had somehow managed to introduce supermatter into the stellar reactions causing the hyperspace storm. A disturbed holographic projection then appeared, featuring a bald old man from the observatory who solemnly added, "This is a complex process. It's not as simple as just introducing supermatter into a star." Despite numerous simulations, we've been unable to accurately model the Separatists' operation. It's clear they are far more prepared than we anticipated. Tarkin, his face a mask of determination, cut through the technical explanations. "I just want to know the outcome," he demanded, signaling the gravity of the situation and his resolve to confront the Separatist threat head-on. The atmosphere was heavy as the old man spoke. The hyperspace of the entire Eliadu galaxy is now in complete disarray. Navigating through hyperspace has become a complex calculation, and even then, safety cannot be fully guaranteed. For the foreseeable future, hyperspace navigation within the Eliadu galaxy will be severely disrupted. "How long will this last?" someone asked. "I can't say for certain. It could be a few days, months, or even more than a year," the old man replied. "We're unable to replicate the astronomical model of this stellar flare, making it impossible to gather accurate data. However, we've deduced that the duration of this hyperspace storm won't exceed 410 standard days at most, based on our maximal function analysis." The staff officer, noticing Tarkin's growing frustration, attempted to offer some consolation. "But doesn't this also mean that the Separatists and their supply lines are equally affected?" Tarkin shot the staff officer a chilling glare. "You're dismissed, you fool. Report to the infantry company immediately." Meanwhile, on the Eliadu satellite, the sound of explosions echoed through the thin atmosphere, distant yet deadly. More than a dozen AT-PT bipedal walkers, each towering over 3 meters tall, were decimating the Republic's defensive positions with relentless fury. Two squads, keep clear of those walkers," came the desperate cries. "Take them down with rocket launchers." "We've lost contact with the 4th Squad. Send reinforcements now." The communication channels of the Republic defenders were filled with frantic calls for help as their positions were systematically dismantled by the AT-PT walkers. The wreckage of several TX-130 Sabre-class hover tanks, though more powerful and agile, lay in ruins, having been overwhelmed by the walkers' superior numbers. Without the protection of their armored units, the infantry found themselves hopelessly outmatched against such mechanical behemoths. One soldier, in a desperate bid for survival, crawled across the charred earth, dodging blaster fire that whizzed overhead. The sounds of battle seemed muffled, barely audible over his labored breathing within his helmet. A massive shadow loomed over him, and he quickly rolled into a nearby crater, clutching his blaster rifle tightly. An ATPT walker passed directly above, firing a volley of shots towards his comrades. Unnoticed by the walker, the soldier seized his chance, crawling forward until he stumbled upon a rocket launcher beside a fallen ally. With determination, he aimed at the ATPT walker and pulled the trigger. In a different world, Shen Changqing walked the streets, exchanging nods and greetings with acquaintances. Yet, no matter who he encountered, their expressions remained stoic, betraying no emotion. This was the norm in the Ministry of Suppression, an organization dedicated to maintaining the stability of Daqin by eliminating demons and monsters, among other tasks. In the Ministry of Suppression, it was common for members to have blood on their hands. Constant exposure to life and death desensitized them to many aspects of life. Initially, Shen Changqing found this environment unsettling, but over time, he adapted. The ministry was vast, housing only those with significant strength or potential. Shen Changqing belonged to the latter group. Within the ministry, there were two main roles, guardian envoys and demon slayers. Shen Changqing was part of this relentless fight against darkness, a testament to the ministry's unwavering resolve. Shen Changqing began his journey at the lowest echelon of demon slayers. Gradually, he ascended the ranks with aspirations of eventually becoming a guardian envoy. His predecessor had been a trainee slayer within the Demon Suppression Division, occupying the most humble position. With the memories of his predecessor, Shen Changqing found himself well acquainted with the surroundings of the Demon Suppression Division. It wasn't long before Shen Changqing found himself standing before an attic. Unlike the other areas of the Demon Suppression Division, which were permeated with an ominous chill, this attic exuded a sense of tranquility that set it apart. The door was ajar, with individuals occasionally entering and exiting. After a brief moment of hesitation, Shen Changqing stepped inside. The atmosphere transformed instantly. A potent mix of ink fragrance and a subtle hint of blood greeted him, causing his brows to furrow instinctively. However, he quickly adjusted to the scent. It seemed there was scarcely any way to completely rid the members of the Demon Suppression Division of the lingering scent of blood. Vol 2, Chapter 954, Captain Dawn. On the Eliadu satellite, the forces of the Fourth Civilization, led by Captain Dawn, Ling Liang, adopted a strategic approach rather than a direct assault. Instead of targeting the satellite's planetary shield generator immediately, they executed a two-wing flanking maneuver. Utilizing the mobility and firepower of over 2,000 ATPTs, they successfully defeated several Republic defenders attempting to reinforce their positions. As the Republic's forces scrambled to redeploy, Ling Liang seized the opportunity to direct her forces towards an industrial area. Ling Liang was acutely aware that despite the initial success and the ensuing chaos among the Republic defenders, the situation could quickly turn dire. The Galactic Republic boasted an army of 2 million, complete with air support and a continuous supply chain, capable of overwhelming her forces with ease. To prevent this, she aimed to disrupt the Republic's military strategy, forcing them to spread their resources thin and create openings for her forces to exploit. Her attack on the industrial area was a feint designed to mislead the Republic's commanders into believing her intentions were to engage in a prolonged conflict targeting both industrial and agricultural sectors. However, Ling Liang's true objective remained unchanged, the shield generator, aiming to resolve the conflict swiftly. Meanwhile, a hyperspace storm in the Eliadu Galaxy's hyperspace channel had severely disrupted supply lines, leaving the Galactic Republic's reinforcements stranded. This logistical nightmare forced the Republic to reconsider its supply and transportation strategies. Despite the setback, the Republic's Strategic Command was reluctant to divert resources from other fronts, choosing instead to focus on the Western region's battlefield. The Supreme Strategic Command of the Republic deliberated between launching new offensives on Marathon Planet and Agma Planet. The former would secure the Hydia hyperspace channel, while the latter could extend the Republic's strategic depth towards the Eliadu galaxy and ensure smoother navigation along the Rima trade route. Given the complex political landscape on Malastar and the relative stability on the Agmar front, the decision was made to target the Jiwan people in the Jag-Dur galaxy with the 20th Army of the Republic. On Maratha Planet, Jedi Masters Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luminara Unduli were preparing to confront the Separatist army concealed within the planet's extensive underground pipe network. Initially, the Republic's 212th Strike Battalion attempted to flush out the enemy with flamethrowers, but this proved ineffective and caused civilian casualties among the planet's native Gran and Dag populations. This prompted a direct assault into the labyrinthine pipe network, with clone troopers utilizing drones for navigation and engaging in intense combat. They encountered a vast number of droid legions, primarily composed of B-1 battle droids, which were swiftly decimated. The clone troopers advanced, stepping over the wreckage of countless droids that littered the ground. As the underground battle raged for nearly a day, the Separatist army launched a sudden counterattack, catching the Republic forces off guard. In a bold counterattack, the Separatists managed to conceal their army's location effectively. Despite the Republic's focus on the underground pipe network, the Separatists quietly deployed a significant number of troops to the surface. Launching simultaneous attacks from the east and west, they caught the clone army off guard. Leading these assaults were two Dark Jedi, former Jedi Masters Green Beatty and Aiden Ward, who had been resurrected by Darth Marthel. Despite their minds becoming increasingly rigid under the dark influence, their combat instincts remained sharp. Wielding their lightsabers with deadly precision, they inflicted severe damage on the Republic's clone army. The Separatist strategy was clear: to strike the Republic's ground positions while their forces were engaged underground, creating chaos on both fronts and aiming for their annihilation. The ground forces were bolstered by an array of formidable units, including dwarf spider combat machines, destroyer droids, and numerous B-2 super battle droids, revealing the hidden strength they had reserved from previous battles. Meanwhile, the skies were dominated by fierce clashes between the Separatists' tri-droid fighters and the Republic's Air Force. The Separatists also reinforced their counterattack in the underground pipe network, deploying the 4th Legion and the Army of the Fourth Civilization, significantly increasing the pressure on the Republic's clone army. Despite their elite status, the clone troopers were stretched thin, fighting on multiple fronts and struggling to maintain their positions. In a display of unmatched skill, Obi-Wan Kenobi decimated over 20 soldiers from the Fourth Civilization who attempted a flanking maneuver. He then turned to his clone commander, Cody, with a strategic directive. "Cody, the Separatist armies must have an underground rally point. Defend this position while I lead a counterattack," Obi-Wan commanded, effortlessly deflecting incoming fire with his lightsaber and using the Force to send grenades flying back at their throwers, resulting in explosive casualties among the enemy ranks. Cody expressed concern about the situation on the ground, but Obi-Wan reassured him, placing his trust in Master Luminara Unduli's wisdom and leadership. "Leave this to me, General. The Separatists won't breach our position," Cody responded with determination. Charging into battle, Obi-Wan encountered two dwarf spider combat machines on the ceiling. With a powerful use of the Force, he brought them crashing down, reducing them to scrap metal. Suddenly, a disc-shaped object flew towards him at high speed. Obi-Wan's lightsaber, unable to intercept the object, forced him to dodge at the last moment. The disc ricocheted off the walls before returning to the hands of a figure who boldly declared, "Your aggression ends here, aggressor. With me present, your crimes will not succeed." Obi-Wan faced the man, noting his unique combat uniform and the round shield in his hand, the same object that had nearly struck him. "You don't possess the Force, but who are you?" Obi-Wan inquired, sensing the man's determination. "I am the guardian of planet Dawn, Captain Dawn, Shi-Amen," the man proclaimed, standing firm in his resolve to defend against the aggressors. "I'm sorry, but I can't assist with that request. Vol 2, Chapter 955, Obi-Wan vs. Shi-Aimon. With a thunderous crash, Shi-Aimon's fist slammed into the wall, leaving a gaping hole. Obi-Wan, utilizing his precognitive abilities granted by the Force, narrowly dodged the attack. The sight of the demolished wall triggered a memory in Obi-Wan. "I remember now," he exclaimed. "Anakin mentioned rescuing Ghidorah the Hutt and encountering a super soldier wielding a shield. That must have been you. You're with the Separatists." Scratching his head, Shi-Aimon paused instead of seizing the moment to attack. He replied with a serious tone, "We're not Separatists. We're freedom fighters." "Regardless, your actions have plunged the Galactic Republic into civil war," Obi-Wan retorted sharply. Shi-Aimon countered, "But it was you who attacked first. The people in the Outer Rim are fighting for their survival. We simply want to end your oppression and restore freedom and peace to the Outer Rim." Realizing the futility of his words, Obi-Wan took a deep breath, his gaze hardening. He positioned his fingers together, mimicking a sword, and adopted the stance of Soresu, the third form of lightsaber combat. Without further ado, Shi-Aimon swung his flicker steel shield at Obi-Wan's head. Obi-Wan's lightsaber met the shield but was blocked. Sensing an impending attack, Obi-Wan managed to dodge a kick aimed at his calf and anticipated a strike to his chest. Despite his efforts, he couldn't fully evade Shi-Aimon's shoulder charge. The impact sent Obi-Wan flying, and he tumbled across the ground before regaining his footing, pain radiating from what felt like a broken rib. Meanwhile, the battlefield was ablaze with conflict. Shi-Aimon's forces had secured strategic positions, pinning down Obi-Wan's clone troopers with relentless firepower. Shi-Aimon wasted no time in pressing his advantage, charging at Obi-Wan once more. This time, Obi-Wan recognized the exceptional physical prowess and combat skills of his opponent. Raising his hand, he used the Force to seize control of Shi-Aimon's shield. Shi-Aimon was taken aback by the strength of the Force tug-of-war over his shield. Despite his formidable physical strength, he struggled to maintain his grip. Suddenly, the forceful pull ceased, causing Shi-Aimon to stagger. He barely managed to raise his shield in time to block Obi-Wan's descending lightsaber. Yet again, the shield was caught in an invisible grip. Shi-Aimon, having trained with Darth Marthael and other Dark Jedi, knew the importance of never losing his shield to a Force-sensitive opponent. He was aware that while using the Force to manipulate objects could be draining, it was a critical tactic against those sensitive to it. Darth Marthael had emphasized that this strategy mainly worked against less powerful Force users. Against a truly powerful Force wielder, resistance would be futile. Shi-Aimon recalled these lessons vividly during their sparring sessions. Determined, Shi-Aimon clenched his shield tightly, yanking it free from the Force's grasp, just in time to deflect Obi-Wan's attack. Then, with a powerful thrust, he and his shield collided with Obi-Wan. Adapting to Shi-Aimon's aggressive style, Obi-Wan quickly created distance between them, readying himself for the next phase of their duel. The battle was far from over, and both warriors knew that only one could emerge victorious. In the midst of the battle, the situation on the battlefield took a dramatic turn. Two assault landing ships, akin to cheerleaders in their sudden appearance and impact, emerged on the outskirts of the planet Marathar, escorted by 3 chariot-class battlecruisers. Without hesitation, they commenced a landing operation on the capital's battlefield. The Galactic Republic had decided to send reinforcements to Malastare, defying expectations. The arrival of these reinforcements sent shockwaves through the ranks of the Gran and Dag military commanders on Maratha. In a state of panic, they reached out to Xiao Guanghua, the commander-in-chief of the Fourth Civilization, seeking guidance. What should we do? Hadn't the Republic forsaken this place? The Grand Commander stammered, his voice trembling with fear. We're doomed, added the Dag Commander, equally terrified. Yet, Xiao Guanghua remained unshaken, his voice steady and commanding. Don't panic. Look at the bigger picture. The hyperspace channel of the Eliadu galaxy is currently disrupted, making it impossible to deliver supplies. Given these circumstances, Malastare's strategic importance is waning. The Republic won't commit significant resources here. But they're already here, the Grand Commander protested. We still possess sufficient strength. Our immediate task is to destroy their artillery positions as soon as the Republic's reinforcements land. Then we'll disrupt their supply lines, Xiao Guanghua strategized. Does this mean our secret support will remain undiscovered? Asked the DAG commander, taken aback. Do you truly believe the Jedi Knights of the Republic have been oblivious up until now? The arrival of these reinforcements is proof enough. They fed us false information, prompting us to counterattack, only to send reinforcements to deliver a crushing blow, Xiao Guanghua explained. But this will result in many casualties, the Grand Commander murmured. If you prefer the life of exploitation under the Galactic Republic, then by all means surrender. Xiao Guanghua retorted, his hands clasped behind his back, his tone icy. No, that's not what I meant. The Grand Commander faltered. Xiao Guanghua's voice hardened. Until we achieve victory, all prior agreements are moot. Do you understand? Now, follow the plan. Let's show the Galactic Republic the true extent of our strength. Note, Captain America Steve Rogers will not be featured in the Fourth Civilization narrative. As a symbol of American spirit, his inclusion would be inappropriate. Instead, Shi Amin, though a humorous character, serves well as Captain Dawn. Please note, the original text contained references and a narrative style that seemed to blend elements from various franchises and original content. The adjustments made aimed to clarify and enhance the narrative while respecting the original context and intentions. Vol 2, Chapter 956, Exposed. The reinforcements of the Galactic Republic arrived on the planet Malastare, just as the army of the Fourth Civilization was emerging from the underground pipe network. Their ground positions were under attack. The Republic's reinforcements, transported by 2 Cheer-class assault landing ships, comprised 20,000 clone troopers and a significant amount of heavy equipment, including ATE Walkers, TX-130 Sabre assault tanks, and LATI assault transport gunships, which were equipped with a higher-than-standard configuration. Upon arrival, they immediately engaged in battle. Despite facing massive anti-aircraft firepower from the Fourth Civilization, they managed to land on the outskirts of the capital, Pixel City, and launched an attack. The LAI gunships, carrying clone soldiers, employed leapfrog tactics to penetrate deep into Pixel City, targeting hundreds of strategic locations. Amidst the chaos, the military commanders of the Gran and Dag species were in a state of panic. They urgently contacted Master Luminara Unduli for assistance. General Luminara, the Separatists are attacking our supply warehouse. We must send reinforcements immediately, or our supplies will fall into enemy hands, they pleaded. Luminara Unduli responded with her characteristic calm. I will arrange for reinforcements right away. Where are you now? We're en route to the command center. Are you there, General? Let's meet as soon as possible and then rush to the warehouse, the Grand Commander said urgently. Yes, I'm at the command center. Come here, Luminara replied. Shortly after, the Maratha Planet Joint Command Center, located in the city's heart, was suddenly attacked. Rockets struck the building, engulfing it in flames. Gran and Doug soldiers, alongside B-1 battle droids, stormed the building, firing indiscriminately. The command center was thrown into chaos, with holographic projection equipment, battlefield maps, and computer hosts destroyed in the onslaught. However, a Gran soldier reported back in a panic, General, except for a few holographic dummies, there's no one here. The commanders of the Gran and Doug forces exchanged horrified glances. We've been exposed. Run, the Doug commander shouted, leaving his soldiers behind. But as they attempted to flee, gunshots and explosions erupted from the perimeter, killing more than a dozen of their soldiers instantly. Then, several ATE walkers emerged from the ruins of a nearby building, throwing the enemy forces into disarray. Some hid and fired blindly, while others surrendered. The emotionless B-1 battle droids continued to resist, but were quickly overwhelmed by the elite clone soldiers. Jedi apprentice Barriss Offee, young and determined, led a commando team through the heavy siege, capturing the Gran and Doug commanders. These high-ranking military officials were now prisoners, taken before Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luminara Unduli. Obi-Wan, still showing signs of his lengthy duel with Shi Amin, known as Captain Dawn, from the previous day, was visibly exhausted. The possibility of a quick raid had been eliminated, forcing him to retreat and plan a new offensive. Despite his wariness, he stood before the captured commanders, ready to confront them. In the presence of 2 imposing figures, the so-called commanders-in-chief of the Duggan Grand people huddled together, their bodies quaking with fear. They pleaded in hushed, desperate tones, "Don't kill us, please. Don't kill us. We'll tell you everything. Everything." Luminara was on the verge of questioning their motives for separatism when Obi-Wan Kenobi gestured for silence. His voice was sharp as he demanded, "You are not soldiers. Who are you?" Luminara Unduri, taken aback by Obi-Wan's interjection, stared at him in disbelief. "What did you say?" she asked. The impostors, trembling uncontrollably, confessed, We are merely actors. 2 months ago, hundreds of us were gathered and trained to portray the roles of army commanders. I was deemed the most convincing, so I was chosen to play the part." "How did you discern this, Master Obi-Wan?" Luminara inquired, her curiosity piqued. Obi-Wan explained, "I had my suspicions, though I was never certain. Despite their convincing demeanor and temperament, they lacked the unmistakable aura of battle-hardened warriors. The planet of Malastare is far from peaceful, with a long history of conflict between its two races, not to mention previous altercations with the corporate alliance. It seemed implausible for a true military commander-in-chief to appear so unblemished." Luminara's expression darkened as she realized the gravity of their situation. "So, Malastare has been deceiving us from the start. They've aligned themselves with the Separatists, using us as pawns in their scheme, leading our forces into a trap to suffer heavy casualties under dire circumstances. What was your objective in all this?" Obi-Wan demanded. The Grand's foe commander-in-chief replied, "We were instructed to relay your artillery positions and spaceport locations from the outset, while also covertly supplying them with vast amounts of resources. The Separatist army, with its ample supplies and numerous droids, has been stealthily infiltrating our transport ships." "And what did the Separatists promise you in return?" Luminara pressed. The Dug's impersonator answered cautiously, "They promised to help us resolve our planetary disputes, grant us greater economic independence, and establish a new colony for us on a reclaimed planet. They also pledged support in developing our own industrial system." It was then that Barriss Offee, who had remained silent until this moment, interjected, "But aren't those the very things the Galactic Republic is supposed to provide?" The revelation of the actors' true identities and the depth of the Separatists' deception underscored the complexity of the conflict, revealing a web of lies and manipulation that extended far beyond the battlefield. Vol 2, Chapter 957, Betrayal. Upon hearing Barriss Offeen's somewhat naive question, the two actors exchanged a look of resignation. "This matter concerns the higher-ups. It's beyond our understanding," they admitted. Their cautious demeanor indicated they were wary of speaking out of turn in such a delicate situation. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luminara Unduri shared a glance, their expressions tinged with helplessness. The plight of the planet Maratha had been a clear indicator of deeper issues. More than a decade ago, the conflict that erupted with the blockade of Maratha, particularly during the Battle of the Maratha Fjord, had laid bare the crux of the problem. Despite its production of high-quality gas fuel and shuttle engine manufacturing capabilities, Maratha remained a mere vassal to the Enterprise Alliance. The Alliance's control over resource extraction and industrial production relegated Maratha to a role of a resource supplier and processing factory, devoid of any independent industrial system. This made self-sufficiency an unattainable dream for the planet. The internal strife between the Gran and the Dag peoples further complicated matters. However, the Galactic Republic's response was particularly disheartening. By taking sides with the Gran, who held greater political influence, the Republic's actions were clearly biased. This approach of siding with the more influential party to resolve issues more conveniently was not new. It had been the Republic's modus operandi in past conflicts as well. Such tactics only served to oppress the weak and exacerbate the situation, as seen in the subsequent Battle of Malastare Fjord. Despite the Republic's intervention, the underlying issues remained unaddressed, leaving Maratha to bear the brunt of the consequences. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luminara Unduri felt a sense of helplessness, aware that many planets had turned to separatism due to such grievances. From their perspective, many of these issues could have been avoided. Yet, bound by their positions, they could only hope for the preservation of the Galactic Republic and the end of the Civil War, wishing for a political reform inspired by the lessons learned from the conflict. However, the likelihood of such change remained uncertain. Who are the Separatist commanders? Where are they? Obi-Wan Kenobi inquired, his tone slightly softer. Their commander is named Xiao Guanghua. There's also a burly man with a stuffed toy on his waist, though his name escapes me, and another, a seemingly dim-witted individual with a shield, known as Shi Aimin, the Grand Actor responded earnestly. The DAG actor added, but their exact whereabouts are unknown to us. They always initiate contact. We're merely actors. Military strategies are beyond our purview, even the troops under our command. What about them? Luminara prompted. Many on the planet still support the Republic. In fact, most of the troops sent to battle were from these pro-Republic factions. For instance, in the skirmish in the business district 2 days ago, our forces were from Tatako Continent, a pro-Republic stronghold. After you decimated our forces, the representative of Tatako resigned yesterday, the dog explained. These bastards! Obi-Wan Kenobi exclaimed, outraged. It's as if we've inadvertently eliminated those factions sympathetic to the Republic. On the planet Malastar, the situation was growing increasingly dire. Luminara Unduli's expression darkened as she received the troubling news. Are you telling me that there are still separatist factions on this planet with considerable strength? She asked, her tone laced with disbelief. Yes, the DAG replied solemnly. For instance, the armies in the Modata Industrial Continent and the Burning Energy Continent have yet to engage in the conflict. Obi-Wan Kenobi, standing nearby, took a deep breath, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. I must report this to the Jedi Temple immediately, he declared. The complexity of the battle situation here is beyond our initial estimations. The hidden strength of the Separatists might be far greater than we anticipated. Even with reinforcements, victory is not guaranteed. Luminara nodded in agreement, her mind racing with the implications. Anil Tim, the parliamentary representative from the planet Maratha, has undoubtedly played a significant role in this affair. I'll notify the Senate and ensure his arrest at once. With a sense of urgency, she reached for her communicator to relay the information. Meanwhile, on Coruscant, the bustling capital of the Galactic Republic, the Galactic Senate was as chaotic as ever. Thousands of members engaged in endless debates over military budgets and strategies for the counter-offensive. Amidst the cacophony, the absence of one member went unnoticed. In a discreet hotel on the 10th floor of Coruscant, a group of heavily armed granite bodyguards escorted a figure dressed in elegant Chinese attire out of the back door. They were protecting Ainla Tim, the Marathar planet's representative and a once prominent leader of the Ring faction within the Galactic Senate. Ainla Tim had enjoyed considerable influence and was a leading candidate for the speaker's position after Finis Valorum's resignation. However, his campaign was sabotaged when Orn Frita, another influential Ring faction member from the Rylos planet, unexpectedly defected. This betrayal led to Sheev Palpatine's election as speaker and marked the downfall of the Ring faction. Despite these setbacks, Ainla Tim remained in the Senate, as Marathar had chosen neutrality over joining the Confederation of Independent Systems. However, the war's progression and the involvement of Jinyen Planet, the Granite's homeworld, swayed Ainla Tim's stance. A clandestine meeting with Lancis Underwood, the Dawn Planet's representative, convinced him to align with the Confederation of Independent Galaxies, marking a significant shift in the galactic political landscape. As the galaxy stood on the brink of further turmoil, the actions of individuals like Ainla Tim would shape the course of the war and the fate of countless worlds. Vol 2, Chapter 958, Freedom and Power. According to the original plan, Ainla Tim was scheduled to depart on a spaceship the day after tomorrow. However, an urgent message from the planet Marathar arrived just an hour ago, revealing that the Jedi Knights had uncovered their scheme. Consequently, Ainla Tim, under the escort of his bodyguard, discreetly exited the parliamentary venue and made his escape through a back door. Barely half an hour after his departure, agents of the Republic arrived at the Galactic Council meeting place. They conducted a thorough yet inconspicuous search, hoping not to draw the attention of other members. Unfortunately for them, they left empty-handed. Upon receiving this news, Einlatim's anxiety intensified. He urgently instructed his bodyguard, "Contact Governor Tang Xiao at once. I need to leave Coruscant immediately." His team of over a dozen bodyguards sprang into action, each with a specific role. Some scouted ahead, others cleared the path. A few were tasked with personal protection, and some were assigned to surveillance and sniping. Having been a fixture in Coruscant's political landscape for many years, Einlatim had amassed a network of informants and allies, enabling him to quickly gather a wealth of information. "Your Excellency, 3 teams from the Sheriff's Department are heading our way, attempting to block the airspace in this vicinity," one bodyguard reported. 2 plainclothes officers were spotted nearby. "They've been dealt with," another bodyguard communicated. Despite their seemingly innocuous appearance, the grand species boasts some of the galaxy's most exceptional vision. Their 3 eyes provide a broad field of view, sensitivity to light, and even the ability to perceive infrared rays directly. This evolutionary advantage has made the Gran one of the few intelligent species descended from herbivores. Consequently, a well-trained Gran warrior is a formidable opponent, capable of detecting even the slightest movements without any blind spots. However, such warriors are rare among the typically gentle Gran populace. A moment later, the communications officer approached Einlatim and whispered, "The routes to the spaceport and the upper levels are heavily guarded. Schiff Palpatine has just publicly denounced Malastar for betrayal in the Parliament." "Betrayal?" Einlatim clenched his fist in anger. "Palpatine dares to accuse me of betrayal. He has betrayed me time and again, betrayed our Gran people. We have intelligence agents from Dawn Planet already on site. Their operative, codenamed 007, has arranged a meeting on the 51st underground floor of Coruscant," the bodyguard informed him. "Do we proceed downward?" Einlatim's expression darkened. Despite his power and status, he had never ventured below the 5th underground level of Coruscant, considering those areas to be unsavory slums. "It's our only option. Our Gran appearance makes us too conspicuous. The Dawn Planet's human intelligence agents will blend in more easily," the bodyguard explained. "If necessary, we're prepared to engage the Republic's defenders in a fierce battle to ensure your safe passage." Einlatim nodded in agreement. Following his bodyguard's advice, he exchanged his distinctive attire for a nondescript, thick robe and quietly slipped away into a hover car. Meanwhile, the bodyguard donning his clothes led 2 others in the opposite direction. Shortly thereafter, a series of gunshots and explosions erupted from where the decoy team had headed, drawing the attention of numerous security forces and intelligence officers on flying motorcycles. Seizing this diversion, Einlatim, under the vigilant protection of his bodyguards, swiftly made his way to the lower levels, evading capture. In the predetermined location, a granite bodyguard stationed outside suddenly heard a whisper from behind. "Listen, don't move. The whole of Coruscant is on high alert for you. Your congressman has garnered too much attention, and Palpatine is determined to capture him." The bodyguard was startled and bewildered. Being a granite, it was inconceivable that someone could approach him undetected, given his battle-hardened vigilance. "Stay calm and don't touch the tentacles on your forehead. Your security measures are commendable, but I could only get this close at the outermost edge," the voice continued. "You can call me James Bond, codename 007, sent to facilitate contact with Dawn Planet. I recommend that our team assume responsibility for the Senator's protection and relocation. A concentrated guard detail makes the target too conspicuous." "How can you prove your identity?" the granite bodyguard challenged. "I can't, not directly. The communication I previously sent is all I have. Hyperspace communication is severed, making it impossible to carry any identification. It's your choice to trust me or not," James Bond replied. After consulting with his colleagues over their communication channel and seeking guidance from Einlatim, the bodyguard reluctantly responded, "We cannot fully trust you. Thus, we will maintain close protection of the Senator, but will consider your advice." James Bond sighed. "That's unfortunate, but not unexpected. There's a garbage disposal station on the 1002nd floor underground, with a garbage ship departing tomorrow afternoon. It's the safest exit strategy we've devised." "Traveling from the 51st to the 1002nd floor in one day? Are you serious?" the bodyguard scoffed. It's the safest option available. If you're not convinced, we have no choice but to respect your decision and continue our protective duties, James Bond stated earnestly. After further discussion with Einlatim, the bodyguard nodded. We'll depart as soon as possible. Mr. Einlatim must be safely extracted, Governor. This mission is of utmost importance, Count Dooku stated gravely. I've dispatched our top intelligence officer to ensure success. However, Shift Palpatine's swift move to issue an arrest warrant in court was unexpected, Tang Xiao remarked, holding a glass of wine, his expression somber. Palpatine is a formidable adversary, known for his decisive actions. It's crucial we have Einlatim on our side to bolster the Confederation of Independent Systems' political influence, Count Dooku replied, shaking his head. They were in the dining room of the Confederate house on subplanet Lassax. I understand Orn Frita of planet Rylos declined your invitation, opting to establish a Twi'lek government in exile on Coruscant? Tang Xiao inquired, shifting the topic. His allegiance to Palpatine is unwavering. Orn Frita's betrayal during the last Galactic Council presidential election significantly contributed to our faction's defeat and Palpatine's victory. He wouldn't risk losing such political leverage, even at the expense of the entire Twi'lek race, Count Dooku explained. In that case, Einlatim's support is even more critical. With his influence, we might stabilize the recent decline in government approval ratings, Tang Xiao observed. Count Dooku responded with a cold smile. It's ironic. When we fought for the freedom of the Outer Ring and emerged victorious, there were always detractors claiming we shouldn't have waged this war, lamenting the heavy burden it placed on them. Such sentiments are profoundly disheartening. Tang Xiao offered a slight smile, acknowledging the complex challenges they faced in their quest for freedom and political stability. In a dimly lit chamber, the air was thick with the scent of aged wine and the weight of impending decisions. Count Dooku, a figure of elegance and authority, turned to face his companion, Tang Xiao, after a moment of contemplative silence. Oh, so what's your opinion? He inquired, his voice carrying a hint of curiosity. Tang Xiao, with a casual yet confident demeanor, replied, If it were named the Independent Galaxy Empire, then these issues we face would be non-existent. Count Dooku's eyebrows arched in amusement, a chuckle escaping his lips. Ha ha! Your thoughts align perfectly with mine, Your Excellency. It's for this reason, and I've always believed that within the entire Confederacy, you alone truly grasp my vision. However, for the time being, we must tread lightly. As you're well aware, the galaxy is vast, and many seek nothing more than freedom. Freedom and power. Ha, to power then, Tang Xiao remarked with a smile, raising his glass in a toast. Their glasses clinked with a crisp sound, a testament to their shared ambitions. Count Dooku sipped his wine with refined grace before speaking again. Let us return to the Confederate Parliament. We're faced with the challenge of addressing the demands for excessive war taxes by more than 300 planetary regimes, led by planet Onderon. And then there's the matter of Senator Einlatim. We await promising news from your intelligence officer. Meanwhile, on Coruscant, within the grandeur of the Jedi Temple, two young Jedi Knights hurried along. Both were human, embodying the epitome of youthful vigor and charm, one with features that spoke of Eastern heritage, the other a quintessential Western appearance, his dark brown hair catching the light. They were Jing Fang and Jax Pawan, newly promoted from their apprenticeships. I never imagined our first assignment as Jedi Knights would involve apprehending such a high-profile figure, Jax Pawan mused, a hint of disbelief in his voice. To think, a figure we've seen so frequently in the news and on the holonet is now our target. It feels almost surreal. Jing Fang, who had been sent to the Jedi Temple from Dawn Planet along with two others, Luna Meng and Luna Huan, now well known within the Jedi Order, pondered for a moment before responding. If the Republic's intelligence department has turned to the Jedi Order for assistance, it suggests we're likely to face significant resistance. We could simply halt all spacecraft leaving Coruscant, Jax Pawan suggested nonchalantly. Jing Fang shook his head. Given that this task has been assigned to us, conventional methods won't suffice. We should employ the Force to sense his presence. A figure of his stature undoubtedly has numerous allies. Their conversation was interrupted by a melodious voice. What big man? Startled, Jingfang and Jax Bawan stiffened, pressing themselves against the wall as if trying to blend into it. It's nothing, really. Just, we were discussing the high-profile individuals we saw on the Holonet news today. Jax Bawan hastily explained, his voice tinged with nervousness. Beside him, Jingfang was visibly sweating, too anxious to move. Approaching them were two striking blonde girls, one dressed in red with a ponytail on the left, the other in blue with a ponytail on the right, the Dream Sisters, Luna Meng and Luna Huan. Known for their playful yet formidable nature, the sisters often teased Jingfang and Jax Pawn during training, earning a mix of respect and apprehension from the two young Jedi. Luna Huan, the one in red, scrutinized them, hoping to glean some insight from their expressions. However, finding nothing, her excitement faded. Ah, so boring. Ever since Master Yoda restricted our outings following the public execution of the dictator on Tiblin, there's been little excitement, she lamented. Jax Pawan, struggling to find the right words, stammered, I can't really say. After all, that situation with the priestess was. Attempting to comfort him, Jax Pawan found himself at a loss for words. Hey, you two seem to be on a mission together. Mind if I join you? Luna Huan inquired, her gaze fixed on Jax Pawan. Well, actually, our mission involves patrolling the lower levels of Coruscant. It's rather mundane, Jax Pawan replied hastily. Luna Meng, standing just behind Luna Huan, cast a knowing glance at Jax Pavan, a slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth. However, Luna Huan seemed oblivious to this exchange. Upon hearing that the task was merely a patrol, she quickly lost interest. You two go ahead with your patrol. We'll return to our meditation, she said, turning to leave. Luna Meng offered a polite smile and a bow to the duo before departing with her sister. Jax Pawan and Jingfang let out a sigh of relief, exchanging looks that revealed their shared anxiety before breaking into laughter. Hey, did you notice? Luna Meng knew you were lying, Jingfang remarked. My sister might be okay, but Luna Meng is truly formidable, Jax Pawan responded with a dismissive wave. Jingfang shook his head. No, it's my sister who's the real force to be reckoned with. Their conversation was abruptly interrupted by a stern voice from behind. Jax Pavan, how dare you slack off here? It was Master Windu's voice, filled with anger. The color drained from their faces as they turned to see Master Windu standing behind them, his expression fierce. Ah, I'm sorry. We were just heading to our mission, right away. Jax Pawan stammered, grabbing Jingfang as they made a dash for the door. However, their escape was short-lived as they crashed into a wall, the impact leaving them dazed. Confusion set in as they realized they had run towards a wall, not the door. And Master Windu? He was nowhere to be seen. Their embarrassment was punctuated by Luna Huan's laughter echoing in the distance. Ha! Not so boring now, is it? The realization that they had been pranked by Luna Huan dawned on them, adding a humorous twist to their otherwise mundane day. Vol 2, Chapter 959, The Final Level. In the heart of Coruscant, the capital of the Galactic Republic, chaos unfolded, 997 floors below the surface. The air was filled with the sound of sirens as hundreds of Republic Police Service officers sped through the skies on their flying motorcycles, their vehicles' red and blue warning lights flashing urgently. Suddenly, a barrage of energy beams erupted from a concealed building, striking a motorcycle with deadly precision. The vehicle exploded mid-air, sending the unfortunate officer plummeting towards the ground below. In Coruscant, a city that spanned 5,173 floors and was riddled with vast chasms, a fall from such a height was a death sentence without intervention. Amidst the pandemonium, soldiers from the Republic Security Service, clad in full-coverage helmets and armed with non-lethal stun guns, forcefully dispersed the gathering crowds. They shoved and kicked their way through, rushing towards the source of the attack, only to find their efforts in vain as another volley of energy beams cut down more officers from the shadows. Lurking in those dark corners were Grand Bodyguards, wielding sniper rifles with deadly efficiency. The Grands, known for their exceptional marksmanship even without the aid of scopes, were a formidable force. Their sniper rifles, gifts from the Fourth Civilization's Intelligence Department, were a testament to the intricate and perilous operations orchestrated by Ainlatim's influence and the extensive network of connections he wielded. In the complex political and criminal underworld of Coruscant, Einlatim was a figure of immense interest, with many seeking to either kill, capture, or rescue him. Amidst the chaos, James Bond, a military intelligence officer from the Fourth Civilization with the codename 007, seized the opportunity to whisk Einlatim away on a commandeered Republic Police Service flying motorcycle. Their escape was facilitated by insiders within the police force, ensuring that the bustling traffic and pedestrians dared not impede their flight, well aware that the police had the authority to shoot any who obstructed their pursuit of a wanted criminal. 2 other Grand Bodyguards followed closely, providing the last line of defense for Einlatim. However, they were not alone. Unseen agents from the Fourth Civilization's military intelligence department were strategically positioned to cover their escape. Thanks to the department's successful infiltration of the Republic's inner workings prior to the war, they possessed an intimate knowledge of Coruscant's secrets, far surpassing that of their adversaries. Can we really escape? Einlatim, clinging to James Bond's clothing, was visibly shaken. After a relentless day of combat and evasion, fear had taken its toll. This should be our final pursuit. Among the security forces on the lower levels, we have allies and some of your old acquaintances, James Bond reassured him. Regaining a semblance of hope, Einlatim nodded, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. Ah, yes, it's Modica, the regional security director. I remember now. I helped him expose a corruption scandal. I had previously made contact with him, and someone else had reached out as well. He agreed to assist us. As expected, we encountered no pursuit on our subsequent journey. Even the patrols from the Public Security Bureau on the same level passed by without giving us a second glance. We were nearing the junk depot when James Bond pulled out a portable personal terminal to check our status. It appears the Republic has no inkling of our presence here. The departure time for the junk ship remains unchanged. We can escape aboard this spacecraft, though it means we'll have to endure the company of garbage, he said. Einlatim, visibly shaken by the ordeal, quickly responded, "As long as it gets me off Coruscant, I'd swim through a sewage pit if I had to." James Bond gave him a peculiar look and said, somewhat cryptically, "In that case, you're welcome to visit Dawn Planet as a guest." However, at that moment, a conversation between 2 individuals aboard the spaceship suddenly caught our attention. One voice argued, "I'm now completely certain your judgment was off, Jing Fang. We've been sitting in this foul-smelling heap all day, and all we've found are malfunctioning robots and endless trash. As I've mentioned, conventional methods won't snag the big fish, otherwise the Jedi Order wouldn't need to intervene. We must let the Force guide us to the answer, and it has led us here." The other voice countered, "If the Force can't be mistaken, then perhaps the flaw lies in your perception," the first voice retorted. "No, I'm confident there's no mistake. Look, we have company," the second voice said, just as 2 young men in rugged attire leaped several meters from the rear of the spaceship. They each drew a metal hilt from their waists, pressed a button, and with a snap hiss, green lightsabers extended from the hilts. Einlatim collapsed in fear. "No, they're Jedi Knights!" James Bond drew his pistol, readying himself, while the 2 granite bodyguards quickly positioned themselves to protect Einlatim. Around them, a dozen heavily armed figures emerged, all operatives from the Fourth Civilization's military intelligence department, concealed in the vicinity. "Jedi, it seems we're prepared to meet our end here," James Bond said, turning to the 2 granite bodyguards with a resigned smile. "I'm sorry we couldn't complete the mission. Take any chance you get to escape and try again." He then raised his hands and stepped forward, addressing the 2 Jedi Knights with a calm demeanor. Well, I didn't expect this situation to draw the Jedi Knights out. You've won. I surrender." As he spoke, James Bond tossed his gun aside. However, in a swift motion, he drew another pistol and fired several shots at the Jedi Knights. Almost simultaneously, the blaster beams were deflected back by their lightsabers. Bond rolled to evade, firing again as he moved. The other intelligence officers also opened fire, their laser, blaster, and projectile guns enveloping the 2 Jedi Knights in a barrage of firepower. Note 1. In the Star Wars movies and animations, the operators of the warships and the city's security forces are all clone soldiers. This is a simplification, as the Republic does not have the resources to employ clone soldiers for such roles. Vol 2, Chapter 960, Intensification of Conflicts. In the administrative capital of the Confederacy of Independent Systems, on the secondary planet of Lassax, within the grand halls of the Confederate capital, the atmosphere was charged with tension. Mina Bontry, the representative from planet Onderon, stood at the podium, her voice resonant and filled with fervor. As I've previously stated, this war has wreaked havoc on countless planets in both the outer and middle rings, far from the freedom we were promised. For Onderon, the Fourth Group and the Interstellar Banking Association have drained our resources to construct costly space docks and produce behemoth-class battlecruisers. Do you comprehend the financial burden of a single behemoth-class battlecruiser? 110 million credits. This expenditure is tantamount to the industrial output of a major city on our planet. Yet, where is the promised industrial system from the Fourth Group and the Interstellar Banking Association? Where is our economic freedom? We've merely transitioned from exploitation by the Galactic Republic to subjugation under the Confederacy of Independent Systems. San Hill, co-chairman of the Interstellar Banking Association, responded with a cold demeanor. Consider the state of unemployment and per capita income on planet Onderon before our investments. In the years following our involvement, unemployment has virtually vanished, and per capita income has seen a significant increase. Furthermore, for the production of the Behemoth-class battlecruiser, we've granted your planet's industrial firms access to patents and blueprints for certain components. Would the Galactic Republic have offered the same generosity? Mina Bontry retorted, absurd. While our people's incomes have risen, a larger portion of their earnings is consumed by this war, leaving them with less disposable income than before. And you suggest our industrial companies should be content producing components for warships rather than goods that enhance the quality of life. Gross Shelbia, representing the Fourth Group, appeared visibly disturbed. The war tax imposed on each planet is compensated through bonds, which will be honored with interest, adjusted for inflation, upon our victory. Are you unaware that halting the production of war machinery would invite the Galactic Republic fleet to our doorstep? Is this war truly our desire? Mina Bontry's voice escalated. Is there no room for negotiation with the Galactic Republic? A statement has been made through our actions, but that doesn't preclude reopening diplomatic channels. I am convinced that within the Galactic Republic, there are many who oppose this war and would welcome dialogue. Her speech invigorated many representatives of the Confederation of Independent Galaxy members in the Parliament, who began to vocally support the calls for reduced war taxes and the pursuit of peace. However, this sentiment was not universal, as representatives from several other planets and major corporate entities responded with louder protests, and the atmosphere grew increasingly hostile. Even the bodyguards behind Gross Shelby seemed prepared for conflict, a testament to the frequent occurrences of such disturbances in the Confederate Parliament. Tang Xiao, seated at the pinnacle of the parliamentary hall, remained silent, his arms crossed. As a member of the 12 core political entities of the Confederation of Independent Systems, he was positioned far from the fray. The unfolding events aligned with his expectations, informed both by the original Star Wars narrative and his experiences since crossing over. He understood all too well that the political landscape of the Confederation of Independent Galaxies was far more fragile and chaotic than many realized, a precarious alliance of interests led by the 5 major corporate giants. In the vast expanse of the galaxy, a complex web of alliances and corporations weaves an intricate tapestry that almost entirely envelops the known universe. This network, comprising the Interstellar Banking Association, the Technology Alliance, the Trade Alliance, the Enterprise Alliance, and the Business Guild, forms the backbone of the Confederation of Independent Systems. Within this structure, there are notable entities such as the Fourth Group, the Interstellar Media Group, the Damask Holding Group, the Southrop Company, and the Freedak Volunteers, among others. These conglomerates and their subsidiaries, like the Dawn Planet, Tylun Heavy Industry, Shenbao Standard Light Industry, Hydra Aerospace Group, United Mining Group, and Giant God Security, hold sway over vast sectors of the galaxy's economy and resources. Each of these corporate behemoths harbors its own interest groups, exerting control over the superstructure of the Confederation, from industrial production and commodity sales to the very livelihood of its citizens. With the outbreak of the Galactic Civil War, these interest groups have seized control of the conflict's direction and outcomes. Their motivations, far from altruistic, are rooted in the preservation of their economic dominance. One might wonder why, in a galaxy where the Confederation of Independent Systems commands over 2/3 of the population, the vast human resources remain untapped, with the war effort relying instead on robotic armies like the B-1 battle droids. The answer lies not in a concern for civilian casualties, but in a calculated strategy to maintain control over the economic lifelines of every affiliated planet. For the planets that have joined the Confederation, the war offers no benefits, no opportunities for glory, or alleviation of burdens through military service. Their only role is to deplete their already dwindling resources, feeding the insatiable appetite of the capitalist machinery with the last of their wealth, only to be repaid with cold, unfeeling robots and warships thrust into a seemingly pointless conflict. This war, devoid of meaning for the countless planets ensnared in the Confederation's grip, serves only the interests of these powerful groups. They gain freedom and benefits at the expense of the many. Mina Bantry, once a fervent supporter of the separatist cause, has seen her perspective shift dramatically in light of these revelations. Her home planet of Onderon, for instance, has poured its industrial might into producing behemoth-class battlecruisers, only to lose half of them in a single day during the battle against Oder Mantle. The planet gained nothing but the cost of materials and labor, with the fate of the warships disconnected from the well-being of Onderon itself. This scenario is not unique to Onderon. Thousands of planets within the Confederation face similar exploitation, producing meager outputs that barely suffice to construct a single cruiser, with no hope for a better tomorrow. As the war enters its second year, the underlying tensions and contradictions within the Confederation are poised to erupt. Tang Xiao, observing these developments, casts a serious gaze toward Count Dooku, the enigmatic figure at the pinnacle of this power structure, contemplating the future that awaits them all in this conflict that has ensnared the galaxy. Vol. 2, Chapter 961, The Alarmist Count. Dooku stood on the stage, his lips curved into what appeared to be a modest smile. However, to Tang Xiao, this smile seemed more like a sneer. Indeed, the ideals of freedom and equality that the Confederation of Independent Systems had championed from the start now seemed like nothing more than a farce. The very concepts of freedom and equality had been absent from the beginning. The notion that over 300 planets, including Onderon, were now petitioning the Confederate Congress for these so-called rights was ludicrous. With a simple gesture, Count Dooku commanded silence from the crowd. His prestige, built over more than a decade within the Confederation of Independent Systems, ensured immediate compliance. The once noisy venue fell silent. "So," he began, his voice steady and commanding, "what plan do you propose for peace, Senator Mina Bantry?" Senator Mina Bantry's expression softened as she organized the documents before her. Tang Xiao observed with interest. Just 6 months prior, in a meeting, Senator Bantry had been optimistic about the war's outcome, even taking offense at Tang Xiao's predictions of failure. Now, here she was, standing in the Confederate Assembly, advocating a war policy against the Confederation of Independent Systems. The events of the past 6 months had clearly pushed her beyond her limits. Despite the Confederation's victories, these were overshadowed by the myriad of problems they concealed. Whether it was General Grievous's extensive campaigns, stretching from the eastern to the southern Milky Way and covering hundreds of galaxies, or the ambitious plan to advance into the central ring from 5 directions, these triumphs were marred by the suffering of countless planets. The massive operations led to an equally massive consumption of resources and warships, incurring astronomical costs. The corporate magnates at the war's core, unwilling to shoulder these costs alone, had passed them on to the other members of the Confederation of Independent Systems. According to Tang Xiao's findings, the average war tax rate on the Confederation's planets had surged by 31% in just 6 months, effectively halving the income of these worlds. Some of the poorer planets, barely subsisting before, were now facing famine, a shocking development for a civilization that had reached the interstellar age. Tang Xiao also noted significant political shifts on planet Onderon. Senator Bontry's statements indicated a potential change in governance, driven by the rapid tax increases and the ruling party's inability to quell public unrest. This paved the way for the rise of alternative political factions. Tang Xiao had anticipated these developments, understanding the strategic importance of Onderon as a key production site for behemoth-class battlecruisers. Senator Bontry then spoke. I propose that the Confederation of Independent Systems dispatch a special envoy to the Galactic Republic to negotiate a one-week ceasefire, followed by peace talks. Count Dooku's response was laced with sarcasm. Oh, and what would this peace agreement entail? Senator Bontry continued. Given the current political and military situation between our Confederation and the Galactic Republic, we need to first establish a temporary ceasefire line, defining the controlled areas of both sides. Subsequently, we should aim to form a coalition government to manage these territories jointly. Her proposal aimed to bridge the vast divide between the two factions, suggesting a path towards peace that would require significant concessions and cooperation from both sides. The room, filled with representatives from various planets, awaited Count Dooku's response, understanding the gravity of the situation and the potential for a new direction in the ongoing conflict. Mina Bontry said, jointly solve the problems of both sides. At this time, Tang Xiao, seated in his chair, asked indifferently, So, Congresswoman Bontry, are you suggesting we negotiate peace with those Republic capitalists who have exploited and oppressed us in hopes they will spare our lives? His question was laden with traps. If Bontry countered by saying they were also victims of oppression and exploitation, her credibility in the Confederate Congress would be undermined. As expected, Mina Bontry began to retort but quickly changed her approach, her expression shifting. Governor Tang, what is your stance on this war? Do you believe continuing as we are will lead us to a resolution? She was subtly reminding Tang Xiao of a conversation they had 6 months prior, seemingly convinced he would support her stance. War is merely an extreme form of politics. Essentially, there's no difference between war and negotiation, Tang Xiao responded. Given that this extreme method has yielded no results and both sides see no end to the conflict, don't you think a more moderate approach could be effective? Absolutely, Bontry asserted confidently. And what if the Galactic Republic demands we dissolve our government, reintegrate, and submit to their rule? Tang Xiao pressed further. That's a matter for the negotiating table. If the Republic insists on such terms, then we will fight to the bitter end, Bontry declared. Then, I wish you success, Tang Xiao replied with a cold smile, ending the conversation. Disappointment flickered in Mina Bontry's eyes. She had hoped for Tang Xiao's support, especially since he had previously hinted at the potential failure of the war. Count Dooku, observing the tense atmosphere in the parliament, exchanged knowing looks with key figures, including Tang Xiao. We will vote on Congresswoman Bontry's motion in a day's time, as per parliamentary procedure. This session is adjourned. After the session, Count Dooku discreetly convened with the core members of the Confederation of Independent Systems. Tang Xiao, however, merely sneered to himself, sensing the timing was critical. What are your thoughts on the peace initiative proposed by over 300 planets, led by planet Onderon? Count Dooku asked directly. Parcel Argent, chairman of the Corporate Alliance, expressed his skepticism. This war has inflicted severe losses on us, with no end in sight. The Corporate Alliance had suffered the most, particularly in the disastrous Battle of Christopher Sis, which nearly bankrupted them. Despite a victory, they lost control of 80% of the planet's revenue to the Fourth Group. The failed raid on planet Camino further compounded their losses, making the prospect of peace negotiations appealing. If we withdraw now, we stand to lose everything, Thornhill, co-chairman of the Interstellar Banking Association, added thoughtfully. Consider this. Will the Galactic Republic ever treat us as equals again? Overthrowing them is our only option. Walter Tamber, foreman of the Technology Union, adjusted his mechanical armor and weighed in. But overthrowing the Galactic Republic seems impossible. The Technology Union had also faced significant setbacks, particularly in the Battle of Rylos. The discussion highlighted the dire situation and the complex political dynamics at play, underscoring the desperation and divergent views within the Confederation of Independent Systems. In the midst of the escalating conflict within the Galactic Republic, Queen Malaji Sintel of Zyglia expressed her concerns about the imminent political upheaval. This war has already begun to sow division within the Republic. I believe it won't be long before we witness significant changes in the political landscape. Our goal now should be to intensify the pressure to hasten this process, she stated, showcasing her astute political insight. Count Dooku turned his attention to Tang Xiao, seeking the stance of Planet Dawn. Tang Xiao, with a meaningful smile, responded, I understand that everyone here has their plans for the post-war era. However, I must remind you all that there is no turning back from this war. It's a do-or-die situation for all of us. Shumai, the president of the Commercial Guild, known for her strained relationship with Tang Xiao, interjected impatiently, Can you be more direct? I don't have the time for riddles. Her disdain for Tang Xiao stemmed from his consistent efforts to maintain a distance, primarily due to her lack of political foresight and questionable ethics. Looking for clarity? Tang Xiao addressed the room. Let me put it plainly. If we lose this war, our businesses and assets will be confiscated by the Galactic Republic as war spoils. In the new order that will emerge, there won't be enough for everyone to share. Only a select few will benefit. Count Dooku, with a slight smile, accused Tang Xiao of fear-mongering. Tang Xiao retorted, My warning includes you, Count Dooku. Have you considered your fate should we lose? Do you expect to be imprisoned briefly, only to emerge and claim your rewards in the New World Order? He continued, Lord Dead Angel has a message for you. Dooku's expression darkened as he urged Tang Xiao to proceed. He said, Do you really believe you will be the master of the chosen son? You are unworthy. The true master is Darth Sidious. Dooku's demeanor shifted once more as Newt Gunley, the governor of the trade union, seized the moment to press him further. Count Dooku, you promised that Lord Sidious would ensure our victory against the Galactic Republic. Yet, a year into the war, our losses are astronomical, and Sidious's support is nowhere to be seen. Supporting Gunley's point, Councillor Thunback Tura of planet Semirth highlighted the disparity in warship production between the Republic and the Confederacy, casting doubt on their chances of victory. Pasal Argent, chairman of the Enterprise Alliance, echoed the sentiment, slamming his fist on the table. What about our investments? If we lose this war, how will we recover our losses? Governor Tang Xiao's warnings may not be mere scare tactics after all. Count Dooku surveyed the room, his frown deepening. He sensed that Tang Xiao might be orchestrating a challenge to his authority, with an increasing number of allies voicing their concerns alongside Tang Xiao. The mood grew tense as even the Interstellar Banking Association seemed to align with Tang Xiao's perspective, questioning Sidious's commitment to their cause. Dooku's expression grew increasingly grim, realizing the potential implications of the Dead Angel's message brought by Tang Xiao. The recent conversation had sown seeds of doubt in his mind about Darth Sidious's true intentions. Perhaps to others, the implications of being the master of the chosen son might not be clear, but to him it was laden with significance, hinting at matters as grave as life and death. With a heavy sigh, he fixed his gaze on Tang Xiao and said, If Lord Dead Angel has further counsel, I invite him to come to planet Losax in person. I shall meet him there. Regrettably, Lord Dead Angel did not impart such instructions to me, leaving me without answers to your query, Tang Xiao responded, his tone icy. The pressing issue at hand is the threat posed by planet Onderon and the quandary of how to address the looming danger of these 300-plus planets. Moreover, we must consider how to bring this war to a close. I was under the impression that we had reached an agreement on this matter, Your Excellency, Count Dooku retorted, his voice taking on a chill. By assassinating Mina Bantry and then executing a terrorist attack on Coruscant. Tang Xiao laid bare Count Dooku's strategy without mincing words. Such actions would only prolong the conflict. How did you come to know of this? Ah, it must have been the Dead Angel who informed you, Count Dooku said, barely concealing his anger. This is utterly unacceptable. Parcel Argent was the first to protest, rising to his feet in indignation. Tang Xiao observed his reaction with a sense of satisfaction. It was clear that in this scheme to pressure the court, Parcel Argent was merely expendable. Let's address the elephant in the room, Darth Sidious. Who truly holds the reins of the Galactic Republic? Tang Xiao posed the question, finally unveiling his true objective. Attachment 1 of the Easter egg chapter, Congressman Mina Bontry delivering a passionate speech at the Confederate Assembly. Note, the provided URL and site instructions have been omitted for narrative coherence and to maintain immersion. Volume 2, Chapter 962, Conspiracy Unfolds. Count Dooku glared at Tang Xiao with intensity. Governor, mere moments ago, you claimed we were trapped with no escape. Yet it seems you believe you have an escape, Count Dooku, Tang Xiao retorted, rising slowly. He leaned forward, hands pressed against the table, meeting Dooku's gaze with equal force. We are not the same, Count. Dooku's frustration neared its zenith, his aura of dark energy causing a palpable tension in the air. We are no different. On the contrary, we are, Tang Xiao countered calmly. Each of us here leads a planet or a star system. Some command corporations that span thousands of galaxies. We are responsible not just for our own lives, but for the lives of billions under our care. And you, Count Dooku? Should we lose this war, you might simply walk away or endure a brief imprisonment. But we would have to face the victor's wrath alongside hundreds of millions of souls. Do you still think we stand on the same ground? What do you want? Dooku demanded, his voice cold. I've made it clear from the start. Victory in this war, Tang Xiao replied. This war cannot be won by you alone. You've said it yourself, Dooku pointed out. That's precisely why we need to uncover the true identity of Lord Sidious. Our willingness to engage in this conflict hinges on his assurances. We've poured vast resources and wealth into this war. Now it's time for Lord Sidious to secure our future. Wouldn't you agree? Tang Xiao reasoned. Dooku, realizing the situation was slipping from his grasp, conceded, I will relay this to Lord Sidious, and I can assure you now the outcome of this war will be most favorable for us. We have time to delve deeper into this matter, Tang Xiao suggested, though he remained seated, showing no intention of leaving. Count Dooku retreated to his secret chamber to contact Darth Sidious. After a tense half-hour wait, he received a response. The holographic projection of Darth Sidious, his face mostly obscured by a black cloak, was visibly irritated. Fool! I've warned you not to contact me needlessly. You risk exposing our connection. Dooku knelt, bowing deeply. Your Highness, the political climate within the Confederation of Independent Systems is deteriorating. Over 300 planets have openly rejected our war stance, leaving us in a precarious position. Darth Sidious, enraged, extended his hand, and through the vastness of space, his force grip tightened around Dooku's neck. You've put me at great risk for this? Managing the Confederation and steering them towards war with the Republic is your duty. Are you now saying you lack the capability? He flung Dooku through the air. The Galactic Republic faces similar dissent, yet their anti-war sentiment is even stronger. This was expected. Your task is to quell these voices, not end the war prematurely. The Jedi Order's influence persists, and the Republic's supporters are far from defeated, Darth Sidious bellowed. Scrambling to his feet, Dooku explained, the situation is complex. The incident has caused unrest among several corporate giants, including the Trade Federation and the Interstellar Banking Clan. They demand further assurances of our victory. Darth Sidious spoke with a tone that balanced the forces of yin and yang. This war is destined to fail, and those corporate behemoths will serve as fodder for our new order. They will be disassembled, acquired, digested. It's your duty to deceive them, ensuring their continued ignorance. Isn't that the path you must follow to see this war through to its bitter end, Darth Tyrannus? Upon hearing the name Darth Tyrannus, Count Dooku felt a jolt of shock. He had learned from a source known only as the Dead Angel that the Sith title Sidious had bestowed upon him, Darth Tyrannus, held no real significance. It wasn't documented in the revered Book of Sith, rendering it as inconsequential as a commoner's name. Yet, Darth Sidious continued to conceal this fact from him. Suppressing the rising tide of discontent within him, Count Dooku continued, There seems to be a malevolent force behind this incident, possibly the Dead Angel. It's likely he orchestrated a secret alliance between the Dawn Planet and the Interstellar Banking Association. Darth Sidious interrupted with a cold snort. The Dead Angel. I've said it before. He's a significant hindrance to our plans. His connections with Dawn Planet run deep. To eliminate him, we must start with Dawn Planet. But, Count Dooku hesitated, unsure. I'm aware that dealing with Dawn Planet won't be straightforward, Darth Sidious acknowledged. However, there are other actions you can take in the meantime. For instance, eliminating Tang Xiao. But if we were to kill Tang Xiao, Dooku began to protest. Do it, Darth Sidious commanded, his voice booming like a bell, its powerful dark side force reverberating through the cosmos, causing Count Dooku to stagger backward and fall. If Tang Xiao has conspired with others to cause unrest, then his death will serve as a warning to all. He paused for a moment before continuing. The war must persist. The representative from planet Onderon has dared to lead a protest. She will pay with her life. And with Tang Xiao's removal, I will support you. We will launch a terrorist attack at the heart of Coruscant, quashing any hopes these corporate giants harbor for peace negotiations with the Republic. They will have no choice but to deplete their last reserves of strength in this war, painting its final chapter with their blood. Yes, Count Dooku responded, a sense of solemnity enveloping him. He realized that Darth Sidious's resolve was unshakable, and the course of action was set in stone. Volume 2, Chapter 960, A Choice to Make. Count Dooku stood motionless for a long while, grappling with an order from Darth Sidious that he found impossible to accept. He was acutely aware of the dire consequences that killing Tang Xiao could bring in the current situation, potentially leading to the immediate disintegration of the Confederation of Independent Systems. Instead of offering a solution, Sidious had tasked him with exacerbating the problem. Suddenly, Count Dooku sensed a presence. With a swift motion, he pressed a button, and the door to the secret room opened, revealing Tang Xiao standing at the threshold. Suppressing the urge to strike Tang Xiao down, Count Dooku asked icily, "What brings you here, Governor?" Tang Xiao, maintaining a stoic expression, produced a black communicator and stated, "I've just been in contact with Lord Death Angel. He wishes to speak with you." Death Angel. Count Dooku hesitated for a moment before using the force to draw the communicator into his hand. He glanced at Tang Xiao and inquired, "Do you wish to be part of this conversation?" With a slight smile, Tang Xiao turned and departed, showing no interest in lingering. Count Dooku retreated to his secret meeting room and initiated the communication. The holographic projection revealed a shadowy figure cloaked in black, emanating a chilling aura that seemed even more sinister than Darth Sidious's. "It's been a while, Count Dooku. How have you been?" came Darth Marthael's eerie yet somewhat playful voice, his identity obscured by a force mask. Count Dooku, far from being in good spirits, responded coldly, "I've made it clear that the disputes among your generation of Sith Lords should not involve me or the Confederation of Independent Systems." Darth Marthael appeared surprised. "What are you talking about, Count Dooku? I'm here to save you, don't you realize?" "I feel anything but saved. I've uncovered your secret schemes. Do you think you can undermine my position by courting individuals like Thornhill? You're dreaming." Count Dooku retorted sharply. Darth Marthael chuckled darkly. "Oh, Count Dooku, I did this because I feared your untimely demise would jeopardize everything from the Separatist movement to the Confederation of Independent Systems. All your 10 years of effort would be in vain." "This is impossible," Count Dooku exclaimed. "Do you truly believe I'm unaware of your plans with Darth Sidious? On the contrary, I know everything. Shiv Palpatine is my master, and Darth Plagueis was my mentor. I was involved in your scheme to overthrow the Galactic Republic," Darth Marthael revealed. Count Dooku's expression darkened as Darth Marthael continued. "But are you aware? There's a significant difference between Darth Plagueis' strategy and that of Darth Sidious. Plagueis favored a gradual approach, aiming to slowly undermine the Galactic Republic and the Jedi Order before eventually taking over. His role was to be a co-chancellor and then head of state. Sidious, however, has a more radical vision. He aspires to become the Emperor." Darth Marthael scrutinized Count Dooku's reaction. As I had Tang Xiao convey to you, Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One, cannot have you as his master. Only Darth Sidious is suited for that role. According to the rule of two established by Darth Bane, there can only be one master and one apprentice. Who better to be the apprentice than the Chosen One? And who better to be the master than Darth Sidious? In his plan, you are superfluous. A slight smirk played on Darth Marthael's lips. You see, as an apprentice, you are too old, and your prestige is too high. Your strength as a master is insufficient, and your understanding of the dark side pales in comparison to Darth Sidious. You don't even possess a tenth of his knowledge. What makes you believe you're qualified to be a Sith Lord? Count Dooku, however, remained calm in the face of these accusations. Your attempts to bewitch me are futile. State your purpose directly. The primary difference between Darth Sidious and myself is that, to me, your survival is of value, Darth Marthael explained. In the entire galaxy, only the Confederation of Independent Systems stands as a formidable opponent against the Galactic Republic. That is precisely our current endeavor, Count Dooku responded. Darth Marthael shook his head. No, the disparity is too vast. According to the plans of you and Darth Sidious, at the war's conclusion, the Trade Federation and the Interstellar Banking Clan will abruptly cease their involvement, deactivating all droids, and thus swiftly ending what appeared to be a prolonged conflict. Following this, figures like Newt Gunray and San Hill will be eliminated. Seizing this moment, the megacorporations under their control will be fragmented, acquired, and absorbed by the Republic's existing megacorporations, eventually forming even larger industrial oligarchies. With the backing of these oligarchies, Darth Sidious intends to establish a dominant galactic republic, Darth Marthael elaborated. It seems you are quite informed. In this scheme, the Confederation of Independent Systems is merely a temporary blade, sharpened only to inflict minor wounds on the Galactic Republic before being discarded. Thus, the fate of the Confederation is inconsequential to Darth Sidious, Darth Marthael continued. He will have you assassinate Mina Bonteri, perhaps even Tandon, and then orchestrate a terrorist attack on Coruscant. Why? Because such actions are the simplest and most direct means to prolong the war, without concern for the severe political repercussions. After all, the Confederacy's demise is imminent, isn't it? But have you considered your fate once the Confederation is dismantled? Count Dooku's expression turned grave. As long as the Confederacy exists, you hold value. Without it, you become expendable. At that point, eliminating you would be inconsequential. You could easily be made a scapegoat. After all, you would be dead. Darth Marthael's words struck a chord with Count Dooku. What do you propose, that I turn against Darth Sidious on your behalf? Count Dooku finally inquired, revealing a crack in his defenses. Darth Marthael smiled subtly, raising two fingers. As always, I leave the choice to you. So, what will it be? What choice? Count Dooku asked. With a broad smile, Darth Marthael presented a vision through the Force, a mutually beneficial option to transform the Confederation of Independent Systems into a lasting, formidable regime. Your political ideals can be realized by preserving the Confederacy, and I will dedicate myself to dealing with Darth Sidious. He gestured dismissively. In the end, you will have secured a powerful Confederacy, and I will have claimed the life of Darth Sidious. A perfect outcome for both parties, wouldn't you agree?